Okay, it is 6:30. I move that we open the Marshfield Conservation Commission May 18th hearing. May I have a second?
Second.
Susan, all right.
Art,
Art Loggy, yes.
Joe,
Joe Ring, yes.
Bert,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Rick,
Rick Carver, yes.
Susan,
Karen, yes.
and Craig Hannafin, yes. We have had the draft minute meetings have been submitted to the commission. Do we have any additional comments on those?
Eric,
Yeah, we had two notes on that. We had a note to change Craig Hannafin to Susan Karen on the person to motion to close 99 Webster RDA. And we had a change from Bill Graffin to Bert O'Donnell on the fourth bullet point for RDA 2107. And this was regarding asking whether the work was in the existing driveway. Other than that, no comments.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from May 4th, pending those changes. May I have a second?
Second, Rick Carver.
Rick,
Commissioner Susan,
Susan Karen, yes.
Commissioner Arthur,
Art Loggy, yes.
Commissioner Ring,
Joe Ring, yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
and Commissioner Carberry.
Rick Carver, yes.
Thank you. All right. All meetings will continue remotely until further notice, which may be coming soon. We'll see. The 3 continuance rule is still in effect. If everyone would please mute until you wish to speak. The modified Roberts rules are in effect, and all votes will be conducted by roll call. We're going to have a slight change in the agenda order tonight to accommodate a commissioner who has a personal matter that requires that they leave at 8 p.m. So we are going to put the de minimis reviews at the end of the meeting, and the RDAs will go behind the hearings. I would like to note that we have 2 continuances. If anyone is here for, find it,
South River and Marginal, 62 Rat Marginal.
thank you, Bill, and Dewey on South River Street, those are continued, so will not be heard tonight. I ask everyone to be concise, particularly given our constraint tonight, to try to get as far as we can by 8 o'clock. And I ask everyone to be respectful. We have 15 votes to take tonight. So we have a lot on the agenda. So let's try to move along at a smart pace. That being said, we have one business item that I want to address before we go forward. And that is, Bill, would you like to just open on this very briefly?
Yeah, the chair and I want to say the following to all of the consultants and applicants out there, and we're going to be echoing this so you can hear it day in and day out, that a lot of the submittals that are coming in are have a lot of issues. We are seeing the wrong form. We are seeing riverfront fees under the state that's a town portion not paid. We have to go chasing that. We have checks coming in made out to other states. That's a joke, but it's the kind of thing that's happening. We have to chase the checks. We have site plans. We ask for resource areas 2-3 times, and the commission has been very kind about not using the denial without prejudice capacity that has been cleared by town council. That's going to probably end because I've had a chat with the conservation chair, and she's not putting up with it. And we can't either. We're a small office, COVID or not, new people in your office or not. It's got to end. We have datum problems too. NAVD 88 versus NGVD 1929 and MSL. So these things have to stop. And I don't want to say any more, but Craig, I would really like to get together with a task force and clean up the checklist. These substantial problems can go if we catch it there. All the things I'm talking about, a little fine tuning, those would really work. I don't know if that's acceptable to you, but that's an avenue that I thought would be a possible resolution to this.
Well, going forward, I think we will be working on this on a sort of continuing basis, but it is in everyone's best interest, the applicants, the consultants, and the commission, to have the cleanest applications we can have, that will just move the whole process much more smoothly for everyone. So that being said, I want to move to the hearing on 208 Enterprise Drive. I will read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Resourceway LLC is applying for the construction of an access roadway and stormwater management basins within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland at 208 Enterprise Drive and 795 Plain Street, Marshfield. Do we have someone here to present this? Art Loggy is the hearing officer.
Yes, Bill, you've confirmed the taxes paid and the abutters notified.
Yeah, Mr. Hearing Officer, definitely. Taxes paid in 5/10/2020 and again at 5/13/21. There were two property owners. Abutters were notified 5/12/21. File number processed 5/18/21. The fees on 5/4/21, and it was published in the 5/12 Mariner.
Do we have the DEP file?
We do. It's number 2927.
Okay. So is someone here to present this project?
Yes, Mr. Hearing Officer, Terry McGovern from Stenbeck and Taylor, where you're taking us out of order. Give me a minute to allow Bill to share screen with me, and I'll go back to my thumb drive and pull up the plans for the project. Bill?
Yep, I'm working on it, Terry. Bear with. Okay, do you want to make him a host? Yes, I do. Okay. Let's see what happens. I made you a host. Yeah, it should be good.
Okay, hopefully you see a colored plan up in front of you. I'm going to pan out a little bit so that you see the scope of the whole project. Okay, can everybody see the plan?
Yes, Terry.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, for the record, Terry McGovern from Stenbeck and Taylor, representing Resourceway LLC, who consists of the McDougall Brothers Construction Company. And this is a project that was in front of the commission a couple of years ago for the first portion of it, which is the portion of the work being done on the VRT parcel at what is now given as 208 Enterprise Drive. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. That portion of the project that was permitted under previous orders of conditions consisted of the access driveway from Enterprise Drive down to approximately 350 feet into the site for the purposes of putting a small office maintenance building and eventually an electronic messaging board, which was recently permitted through the state. And so much of the work that you see on the plan in front of you, including that access driveway, a retaining wall, a guardrail, and the 4-bay drainage and small detention basin associated with that, and a couple of catch basins are in fact already constructed and in the ground. And what is not complete out of that project is the surface paving. In fact, you even have the conservation markers set below the wall. the surface paving, and some plantings that were proposed farther up in the basin, kind of under the power lines, which Bill and I discussed on site yesterday. The new portion of the project is to provide legal access to 795 Plain Street, or parcel D10-02-7E, the portion of which will be cut out as a 10-acre lot at the rear of the property owned by formerly Francis, now Timothy Connor. That land is the southwesternmost part of the parcel that abuts Route 3. And that legal access was required via a planning board decision from 2003, where originally this access was placed along the northerly line of the VRT parcel up against Kerwin Surgical, which would have required filling in a portion of the detention basin, was relocated via a 2016 plan to kind of curve through the middle of the basin via the A&R that allowed Kerwin to expand. And through working with planning and bearing in mind conservation requirements, we strove to relocate that access in such a way that we're not disturbing any of the detention basin and working, for the most part, outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So that roadway is going to consist of a new 22-foot wide road that will be approximately 380 feet long to a kind of a T turnaround as shown. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this and show that a good portion of this area of the 100-foot buffer zone wraps around the existing detention basin that was cut and the forebay. So the new part of the work doesn't intrude on the 75-foot new structure. It basically sits up against the back of that small detention basin that's been built. We're not proposing any sidewalks in this area, which will help limit cutting and clearing. So we're providing a paved access through into parcel D10-02-07. The small amount of drainage that will be generated by that is shown here on its own individual drainage lot, which will lie just to the southwest of the T turnaround, consisting of a small forebay and a small detention basin, which will have recharge structures in it. We're also proposing to culvert over the existing kind of overflow area, if you will, which is really kind of a meandering path of drainage that has come out of the existing detention basin at higher event storms. We're going to put a twin culvert, 4x3 box culvert in that location, and then bring, so that we can actually kind of control the channel flow, bring a 6-foot wide trap rock channel down, which will stop at the 75-foot extent from the BVW. Both the basin and the forebay, all of the drainage work and grading will lie kind of along the 75-foot with a small energy dissipator lying below that, but not inside the 50-foot. So we're not disturbing anything inside of the 50-foot buffer, even with our drainage under this current proposal. We'll be doing erosion control going around the entire parcel area, the construction area, and we're showing a stockpile area for construction beyond the limits of the end of the road, but well outside the 100-foot buffer from both the detention basin and the BVW on the other side. Mr. Grafton and I walked the site yesterday up to about the area of wetland flag 12, which is way over in the corner, just off the edge of the plan over here. And he was in agreement with the flags along that area, since none of the work is going to be within 200 to 300 feet of that location. A separate filing, once final papers have passed and Resourceway LLC has taken control of the actual property, which is pendent on obtaining all permits, a separate filing for the work to be actually done on the site will be forthcoming at that time, as we also discussed on the site. He also asked that we kind of get a rough estimate of the area that was cleared a couple of years ago by Mr. Connor within the buffer zone. And it kind of, I broke that up into two kind of sub areas, if you will. Over on the west side, closer to the actual BVW, there was approximately, you can see the curly tree line here. So most of this is outside the 50-foot. The majority of it between the 75 and 100. And that accounts for about 35,000 square feet in a couple of locations, a small portion of which, about 5,000 square feet, nicks inside of the 50-foot. Over against the detention basin, the power line on the other side, there's an additional area that's been cleared in here, which is about 16,000 square feet, pretty much at the top of the hill. I am going to note for the record that, and I'll see if I can get this to come up and share it. We have, historically, we have in our library here at the office, aerials that date back to 1947. And Mr. Connor has testified, as we've talked to him over the years, that he's periodically gone in as the forest has matured and timber harvested the site. And in 1947, if I kind of bring my cursor up to the middle up here, this area that looks like a scrape running north-south is opposite School Street. And Mr. Connor's land is kind of along this right edge of the property over here. And that is an area that was timbered back in the late 1940s into the 1950s. So, periodically, if you look on recent Google Earth, you're not going to see it because that forest has matured and been cleared at least subsequently once since then. But it's done pretty much for the purposes of harvesting timber. So, for someone like Tim Connor, he's going to wait until it is actually fully mature. We will be at the planning board this coming Monday evening. I know Rod Procaccino is in the process of writing a report on this project. And Pat Brennan has just submitted, as of last week, his comments, mostly some minor technical items. He also wanted the drainage test bits done, which we didn't have access to the site until 2 weeks ago to do. Given that the commission has seen most of this before, I'm not going to walk through the entire 10-sheet set, but I can go to specific items as you may have questions. And what I'll do is I'll turn it back to the commission for questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so Bill, I'm going to ask for some comments from you. I have 4 areas that I'm particularly interested in, and one is the conservation markers that would be permanent ones. The restoration plan because of the cutting in the buffer zone, the brook itself, and the stormwater that may affect the brook. Those are my 4 areas of concentration, but if you'd give the overview, that would be great.
I got it. Thanks for clarifying that, Terry. So Rod sent us at about 2:30 or 3:30 his 3-page comments. So I got to get that to you. I could possibly share it. It's a 3-pager. I don't think that's going to help this group out a whole lot. Of the 10 standards, he was good on most of them. He had comments on standard peak rate attenuation. He said it was not met. He detailed. I think he talked to you about, okay. Recharge standard 3, the information's not been provided. He called out some things there. Standard 8, he's suggesting another energy dissipator at the end of the discharge, added at the discharge end of the existing drainage before discharging to the wetlands. That will slow the flow from any possible impacts, because as this water, it gets to be larger, more water passing through. It's going to be like your California riverbeds, just scoured when the water comes hauling through there. So it's just a good idea to have that additional energy dissipator. You can clarify that with him. And then, of course, the signature by for the prohibition of illicit discharge. There's an illicit discharge compliance document that the responsible party always signs. So perhaps it's the Veracruz, perhaps it's McDougal, I'm not sure, but somebody needs to sign that. So those were some of his comments there. And I'm sorry you're off guard on that. It wasn't time to get it out the door. It came in today. I had a good walk with Terry and with Mike McDougal, and I decided we weren't going on the entire lot owned by Connor because of the background and so on. So I wanted to deal with this part or segment of the project first and make sure that it was intact and we had that all locked in. So we basically looked at the wetland flag start through wetland flag 12 down by the highway. And then we already know, and we've already approved wetland flag 1 through wetland flag 38 around the detention basin. So that's solid. I looked for IVWs in the upland environment. I saw none. I saw a few plants that might have started to get my attention, but there weren't 400 square feet of isolated vegetative wetland. And I don't think even if it was in an uncut state that you'd find it. It is a clear, the brook in question, which doesn't directly affect this project, but it's indirectly involved because the stormwater will be going down the drain, down the drainage swale, and creating an intermittent stream, feeding into the wetland that's adjacent to the Holder Brook. Holder Brook is a perennial stream. It's a cold water creek, so it has extreme value. So we're going to want to look at protecting the entire riverfront, which was in an uncut state prior to this recent cutting. So that's something that's going to either have to be dealt with now or on the next project. Michael McDougal expressed to me that he and his brother are looking forward to connecting on this project, the larger project, and would work with the commission and would not put prohibitions down, keeping us off the property, et cetera, without having a party present. I note that in our regulations revised, and I did send it through to town council, we have courtesy. I did that with Terry. I want to keep the professional relationship going, and same thing with the McDougal. So I did express that some mitigation would be needed at some point in time. I want to express that the riverfront, all of it, is important and needs to be protected. And that's why I think I agree with Rod's comments about the additional energy dissipator. I also would suggest that you might want to pick up an opportunity of putting down some hardy wetland plants, such as willows, down gradient of your discharge area. It would soak up a lot of water. It would slow it down. It'd help create a natural buffer and make the whole area function properly. I think the conservation markers could be set up. I just don't understand the property rights over there completely, so I'm not exactly sure if we were not conflicted by that. I would suggest that conservation markers on the 50, the tree line, or the riverfront, whichever is greater, would be appropriate, and maybe some mitigation. That's kind of it, Mr. Hearing Officer. I'm sorry I took so much time.
Oh, that's good. Nice summary. And I'll come back in a minute to that. I want to ask if any other commissioners have anything they would like to comment on this.
Yeah, just an addition, in reviewing Rod Procaccino's DPW comments, he also suggested, Terry, that easements should be provided so access to the drainage lots and the structures could be gotten to.
Okay, I'll take that as an opening to explain a couple of things. The drainage lot will actually be dedicated for drainage, and even though the road will be a private way, that is open to the town to get in if necessary in order to service the drainage. That's why the preferred mode is to put those on a separate lot. Rod and I did talk briefly about the energy dissipator, doing a little bit of work around what's coming out of the detention basin itself. And please understand that this bill's been out there. I don't know how many other commissioners have been out there, but the overflow that comes out of that basin is typically, we're not a California river the way Bill describes it. There's some leaf debris and some small sticks that have been pushed around, and a little bit of scour and sand here and there from some really peak events, but we're not looking at an eroding canyon out there. And that disturbance is coming out of the existing basin. Our road is going to flow through likewise a similar small forebay and its own detention basin where there'll be a tremendous amount of recharge occurring. So we're constrained by the fact under the stormwater management regs, we're not supposed to provide any increase. Standard 1 is peak attenuation, or no new untreated waters, which we're treating. Standard 2 is peak rate attenuation, which we're achieving at all levels. So our project does do that. We're downstream of the basin. And in fact, what we're trying to achieve, which Pat Brennan recognizes, we're trying to kind of buttress, as we know more development will take place upstream in Enterprise Park. We're trying to buttress that area, if anything, so that you don't have an event. That's why you see that trap rock swale running down, so that you don't have an event that causes harm downstream into the wetland adjacent to Halder Brook. We're trying to get...
We'll be looking for Rod's guidance on that, which he's weighed in on. And I know he's very big on easements as far as on other things as well as this. So,
Or can I say one thing? I'll be very quick. Rod said that standard peak rate attenuation had not been met. And my comment about what I said was only because the box culvert will be straight, exactly like what I said. But the brook basically meanders right now. So that's why I agree with the down gradient additional energy dissipator and potentially additional plants. So that it doesn't have a chance to ever pick up, because the culvert will be the flat, and that's where the pace will pick up.
Well,
I think I have a couple.
We would be. Let me just finish on this. So we'll be looking for Rod's guidance on this. He's already weighed in. It appears to me that the California analogy is probably not exactly good, but it's acting like an arroyo. So that sometimes it's not flowing very much, other times it's flowing hard.
Yeah.
Just a quick note, folks, by the way, I understand, so that we can kind of move things along, that we will be continuing this because we're going to be at planning board. So, I understand that out of the gate. So I'm hoping to get all the comments and address them in sync with the planning board's comments this coming Monday night.
That sounds good. So Bert, you had some questions?
Yeah, two questions, Terry. General questions. What is the nature of the business that's going to take place here? And also, what is the intention to continue on the road? Will this always be a dead-end road, or are there plans for it to go on up through the property?
No. And to take the second question first, there is no intent to move beyond this 10-acre parcel. McDougall Brothers, who are a local contracting company on Webster Street, want to move their operation out of a residential neighborhood in a residential area and eventually create their contractor yard on one of the last available sites in the industrial zone at the end of Enterprise Drive. That's the intention. So the road will dead end there and not continue. Greg Guimond actually made a comment that we're now finally abandoning the 1990 master plan of bringing a parallel road across along south of Route 139. And I said, well, you have to cross 3 more brooks after this one to get to School Street.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
That's the short answer to the questions. And once the permits are obtained, they hope to come forward with a comprehensive site plan, which they can't really do yet because they don't have control or ownership of the property.
No, but the intention is to run their construction company on that.
Correct.
Thank you. And one last point, if you add another spillway, was that it? An additional spillway? Was that what Rod requested? Would that go further into the buffer zone, or could that be either parallel or reconfigured?
I would imagine, I'm at the disadvantage of not having Rod's comments, but I think he's partially talking about the existing drainage channel from the existing basin. The new basin, if it's a matter of changing or enlarging or morphing that, let me flip back to the plan briefly if I can. If it's a matter of going, let's see if I can reshare here very quickly.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to rework it anyway. Just to
Well-
make the point that the new regs, stormwater is no longer excluded from, stormwater is supposed to stay out of the buffer zone also.
It's not exempt, yeah.
Well, again, the idea was that this was constructed bringing the stormwater to the natural low point of the terrain, which only is common sense so that you minimize the disturbance, and keeping it outside of the 50-foot no disturb, which we've managed to do. We're not showing
Yeah,
anything.
and if you can do that in any revisions, I think that's great.
Right, so we're gonna come back to that. Are we done with that? With the plans, Bill, you want to put it back on?
Terry, you good? Okay. He's
All
got,
right, so let me, I just have a comment in a minute. Any other commissioners have anything on this?
No?
Okay, so I want to clarify, maybe Terry can weigh in on this, the access. So other commissioners, everyone can get on the property and look at it with unfettered access. We have any problems here?
I would simply suggest that, as we have done with several other site visits, that we try to coordinate a time. I can be available anytime to go out in small groups if necessary. But Mr. Connor, who still owns the property, has requested that either I or somebody from our office accompany anybody that goes on the site.
So we'll
No
come back.
problem with when, like, just so long as I'm along for the trip.
Yeah, so we'll come back to that another time. Maybe not tonight.
Mr. Hearing Officer, could I just note that I believe under our revised regs, we are allowed access to any applicant's property before us. Just a note.
That was my understanding as well. Thank you for that. So I would like to move it along. Are there anyone from the public, the audience, that would like to comment? Hearing none, it sounds like we're going to go for a continuation, though we were probably prepared to close. Bill, do you want to make some comments on that?
no, I think it's right. I think Terry needs to be able to see the four standards that are being called out by Rod.
Okay, so with
As I
that,
have,
okay, I would like to make a motion. We continue this to a date certain for the next meeting. Terry, is that reasonable?
That's reasonable.
Okay, let's do that. So that will be June
that'll
1.
be, wow, no, it's gonna be, yes, June 1, correct?
Okay, so that's my motion. May I have a second?
Second?
Second by Susan. Karen, thank you. And do a roll call. Let's start with Chairman Craig Hanifin
Yes,
and Susan,
Susan Karen, yes.
Rick,
Rick Carber, yes.
Bert,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
and Joe.
Joe Ring, yes.
And Art Lagi is a yes.
600. Okay, good. We got that going. All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Craig, I'm messed up. I don't know which one's next.
I believe we were going to go to 10 South Street, if
Okay, then, 10 South.
representatives are here.
All right, then. Find out what the heck that one is. You might find that on page 18. All right, so continued. All right, that's good. Okay. Craig, that's a continued hearing. You don't need to
It
read
is.
the list.
Correct. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Okay, thank you. I believe, Terry, you have this also. You want to take the floor?
We're working backwards, but I'm keeping up with you. For the record, Terry McGovern from Stenbeck and Taylor representing the Cutters, Troy, and Chanel regarding 10 South Street. Going back a couple of hearings, I actually watched the first hearing on this, and primarily what the commission was interested in getting is a letter, an opinion from a structural engineer, which you now have, regarding the quote-unquote alternatives or viability of the alternatives for structural support out there. So he's provided that. Victor Pop sent the letter that you've had for a couple of weeks now. Bill asked me in the meantime to make one change to my plan, which I'll put up briefly and then back away from. And that's simply to note, he asked me to make a change to the note about the barrier beach, and I've simply, rather than written the whole definition out, incorporated the fact that it refers to 310 CMR 10.29. I'm also going to note, also noting that we put, because there's a question regarding the FEMA mapping, we changed that date to note that the July 6th, 2020 LOMR, the letter of map revision, is noted on there. That line is shown across and touching the house as it shows on the map. So I know there's been a lot of back and forth about this, but this is essentially the two things that the commission has asked for, and we've fulfilled those requests. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to the commission for questions.
Okay, Terry, thank you. Bill, any brief comments? And would you like to comment on the building commissioner's letter?
Yeah, why don't we go to the plan, Terry? Could you put that back up? Excuse me. Terry,
Give me a second.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Okay, you should be able to see it.
Right, scroll up a little, would you? No, up. Yeah, scroll up a little more. All right, so keep going. Yeah. So you see here, you've got an AE flood zone, meaning an AO flood zone on the property, and you have an AE barely clipping the property. Terry's a professional land surveyor registered in the state of Massachusetts. That has to be noted. Go to the left a little bit. He's got the barrier beach here. Yep, just go a little bit there. And he's called out that, you know, it's not identified as a coastal dune. Go down a little bit to that wetland map, please, Terry. Okay, so buried in this language in the middle of the road, just about, there's a BB, barrier beach. It doesn't say coastal dune. On the right-hand side, you'll see BE, coastal beach. But inherent in 310 CMR 10.29, barrier beach is generally understood to be either barrier beach, coastal beach that is, or coastal dune. That's the definition. The site plan over to the left, or the image to the left, the right here, excuse me, July 6, 2020, Lomer. That picture is actually, I think, from 2016, because that shows the entire South Street area covered by the AO3. So that one should be updated to show.
No, it isn't, Bill. It's right from the new one.
Terry, I looked at it. I mean, I know.
If you zoom in, it points. Let me zoom in as far as I can.
I don't see the AE 12 meeting the AO.
It's down, it's the piece that I cut out of it. The AO points above the lot. You can see where it says Ocean Street. The AO points up into here.
Yep.
The designation of AE is a little bit off the piece that I snipped to the lower left. If you
Yep.
were to broaden this out to the full map, it's right off the July map.
All right,
July 6th.
I don't remember if I saved the images. Hang on a second, because I took it off of our website, Terry, and it didn't coincide with this at all. They were different.
Bill, you can dig that up while we continue discussion in the interest of moving along, because we've had this discussion multiple times. I believe we were down to getting verification that we had an approved engineer's opinion about the concrete piles. And additionally, we have a letter from the building inspector, building commissioner, strongly urging acceptance of the concrete piles.
Right,
okay. As
Okay.
far as the elevation, it
Yep.
exceeds the AE 12. I believe, Terry, please comment on the elevation that it meets. It's the further coastwise one, correct?
Correct. And just again, for the record, and I'm going to actually put here's the larger version of the map. In order to reduce it, I had to cut it down a little bit. But this is the larger version of the map that shows the AE 12. Our schedule of elevations, I'm just going to stop share with that and go back to my plan. The schedule of elevation call for the bottom of the main support beam to be at 17. So you have a 12-inch main girth, which will bring the top of that girth to 18, which is compatible with the nearby V zone. And your finished floor will actually be another 10 to 11 inches above that, probably 12 with insulation. So your finished floor elevation is going to be at 19. So you're going to be, regardless of whether you're in, and we had this discussion last time, the ground elevation around the house ranges from approximately 8 to 9, 8 on the Esplanade side, 9 on the seawall side. So an AO zone being 1 to 3 foot depth of flooding, if you assume 3 feet and you assume the higher ground elevation of 9, that's compatible with the AE flood zone of designated elevation 12. So we're going to be some 5 feet above that. We're going to be more than compliant. We're going to be up quite a ways.
Okay, thank you on that.
Yeah, Bert, I'd just like to finish. So it looked inconsistent, and I just wanted to call it out. If Terry's got it right, and I've misguided there, my bad, sorry. So then you wanted to know about the building commissioner's letter. It does call out AO. We've got AE and AO here by Terry. I was told that the professional would be the when we go by, so I guess it's AE, AO. As far as it goes with regards to the Barrier Beach and the questions that were coming up there, Coastal Dune, I'd just like to say this. I talked to town council. I have talked to the building commissioner. I've talked to Bill Finn, and I talked to the former conservation agent, Jay Wenham. The town council and Jay Wenham had me take a look at the HOP project, SC 422258 from 2009. That one had multiple consultants involved. It's more than 150 more setback than this 10 South Street. It was found to be Barrier Beach and Coastal Dune and in the flood zone, and it was required to be put up on wooden pilings. So I think that's your case right there. And you didn't ask me any other questions, Bert, but I had other stuff to share, so I'll only answer the questions you ask.
You sent us copious notes today, Bill. There was information in there about possibly requesting a variance.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm opposed to that. I believe we've had multiple hearings on this. We've asked for further information. We've been given the information. It's all been backed up by other people. I am satisfied to, well, first of all, I'd like to open it up to other commissioners, but beyond that, I'm ready for a vote. Other commissioners, your comments?
I have a comment. I think that given the fact that the only safe alternative here is to put concrete piers under this house, we can address that, I do not think the commission is going to take a stand on coastal dune barrier beach in this instance.
I would agree with you, Craig. I think it's beyond what we're talking about right now because it's not where we headed in the beginning of this multiple hearings ago. Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I really would like to hear more what Bill has to say on that before I can vote on this for myself.
Yeah, when we started this out, actually, we were asking for coastal dune to be on this. So, I've gone and looked into that. I've given you data. The structural engineer has said you can't do helical piles. They're going to be 2 inches. I also provided you the case of John Igo over on 209 Bay Avenue. There was for more like 6 inches. I talked to the former conservation administrator also, and he said they can get up to 6 to 8. Now, I don't disagree with them that they might rust. Maybe the fact of the matter is true that they'd have to be bound together. They wouldn't provide the security, but they can be used. And that environment over there is Barrier Beach Coastal Dune AE 12. It used to be AE 16. And I don't think that, I think the concept of coastal dune, if you want to prove it's not coastal dune and break the definition by which the commission is interested in, protecting, then you typically have a preponderance of evidence provided by the applicant. And typically what that means is you use the 50% rule, which is the mean high water plus 50% above it with unconsolidated materials. I gave you examples under the Warren Harrington error when on Bryant's, which is just down the road, and they showed a detailed breakout of the subsurface and how it all breaks out. That's factual evidence, and that provides the commission the capacity to either approve or disprove, but that's not in front of you. So you have the definition for 310 CMR 10.29 at your disposal.
Bert, Joe Ring. What's the
Go ahead, Joe.
advantage? What's the advantage or disadvantage of a variance?
For one thing, a variance would be another continuance and the applicant would have to come back and request it. I believe we've strung this out long enough. If we wanted to have a variance, we should have brought it up in the beginning. Bill had ample opportunity to bring all this up 2 months ago. That's not the route we took. I agree with Craig. We're not making a decision here whether this is a coastal dune or not. We're making a decision about whether or not this project should move forward in this manner, in this location. And I think we have enough information to make that decision. Any other commissioners want to comment? I'd like to.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Could I make
go
a-
ahead, Susan.
Yeah, I would just like to add that whether we went for a variance or not because of the decision to go with the concrete piers versus helical piles, to me, the end result is going to be the same, whether we approve it as is now or go for a variance. The question is just what you feel more comfortable with administratively. And I would vote to support either one as long as we end up with the conclusion that we've seemed to be coming to.
Yeah, I don't. Personally, I don't believe by moving forward that we'll have set any precedent other than this one particular house. So I feel we can go ahead and take a vote on this. Any further comment by the commissioners?
Bert, Joe Ring again. I agree with everything I think I've heard and understand. I think what we're saying is more or less for safety reasons, we believe that we should go as proposed.
Yes, I think the building commissioner's letter spelled it out better than anything else.
Couldn't say it any better. And I think that if we rely on that, we have little precedent of saying that we set a precedent. We're relying on the recommendation of the person who knows buildings. The issues about dunes, barrier beach, flats, none of that applies. Can't lift a house up that high to do the work. Go with this one, as
Thank you.
recommended by the building department.
At this point, I'd like to open it up to comments from the public. Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and make a vote to issue order of conditions. Have I got a second?
Second.
Thank you. Susan, Karen, second. Bill, roll call vote. Susan,
Susan Karen, yes.
Arthur,
Art Loggy, yes.
Rick,
Rick Carberry is a yes.
Joe Ring,
Joe Ring is a yes.
and Craig Hannafin.
Craig Hannafin is a yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes. Bill, it's a unanimous vote, 6-0. Do you want to review the conditions?
Pretty standard. You didn't carry the variance in the special conditions, so I'll take that out. These are gonna be, we gotta put in this new one with the building commissioner. Hang on a sec here. Building commissioner, notes. Okay, standard D1s, register both sets of orders, state and town with Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, provide evidence to Conservation Office and post the MSDEP sign, follow pertinent Marshfield bylaws, obtain all subsequent permits such as Marshfield Building Department, Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals, and other pertinent permits, ensure erosion controls in place. I don't think they need that here. And let's see, applicant shall observe 310 CMR 10.05 requirements. No work shall commence until all applicable administrative appeals have elapsed. Coordinate pre-construction site meeting with conservation administrator. Ensure that best management practices, current NFIP, FEMA regulations, and building codes are followed. Ensure footprint in the subsurface remains open to use previous coverage. Post-construction, the proposed work. Back on D1, we also have a notification to the building commissioner 1 day in advance to make sure that all of the D1 special conditions are fulfilled. And kill this one back here at the end. Provide an elevation certificate at the conclusion of the work described in the plan of record and with approval of the conservation administrator. Got that one done. Done. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank everyone. Moving on, if we go to Sullivan at 226 Bay Avenue, that will, I think, allow Arthur time to get in under the wire before 8 o'clock, and then we'll pick up Planting Fields. So I will read, this is a new hearing. I will read the legal notice. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom for Kevin Sullivan at 229 Bay Avenue to convert a wraparound porch to an enclosed livable space with riverfront, barrier beach, coastal dune, and land subject to coastal flowage at 226 Bay Avenue, Marshfield. And Commissioner Lage is the hearing officer.
Thanks, Craig. Craig has indicated the resource areas. Thank you. And Bill, would you confirm the taxes? The butters notified?
Absolutely. The taxes were paid on 5/11/21. Abutters were notified 5/6/21. File number was provided 5/13/21. Gatehouse Media 5/4/21, and then it's published on 5/12/21. You're all set.
Very good. Thank you. Is there someone here to present this project?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
My name is Kevin Sullivan. The house in question is my mother's house, the family house that I grew up in. I live across the street at 229 Bay Ave, and the property that we're talking about tonight is 226. With me tonight is Dana Altabello of Merrill Engineers and Jeremiah Eck, who is our architect at Eck McNeely. And they will be presenting on behalf of us tonight, and I'm available for any questions that anyone has along the way.
Sounds good. So maybe we'll ask the architect to go on and then comments from Dana.
Thank you, Arthur, and thank you all for seeing us tonight. As the Sullivans and their extended families have been in Green Harbor for quite a while. In fact, Frank Sullivan lives at 236 Bay Ave in a house that they've owned for over 100 years. Kathleen Sullivan and Kevin Sullivan Sr. bought the current house in question at 226 in the 1980s in order to spend holidays and summers there. Kathleen now would like to spend more time there, and that is why we're making this appeal tonight. Bill, I don't know, do you have the plans?
Yeah, hang on it, Jeremiah, one sec. Where are you?
If you want, I can share my screen, Bill, if that's any help.
No, it's okay. Somebody just moved me. All right, let's see if how's that. Okay, it's not working. That's peculiar. All right, 1 second here. I made him a host. I think I made Terry a host, and I'm not sure I can host you back. I think I've given you my meeting here. Yeah. Bear with me a second. I gotta get some help.
So while Bill's trying to get that up, I was over at the site a couple of days ago, and it looks like something very straightforward. There's only a few issues that I can see. Maybe get some conservation markers up, and to make sure that the water will flow underneath the structure. The whole project seems very reasonable to me. And so, Bill, are you ready to?
Yeah.
Okay,
Jan.
Dana, can you put yours up?
It's not allowing me to.
Okay. How about Jeremiah? Can you get it up? Can you allow them to do that, Bill?
I'm sorry, I don't have them available. I can talk my way through it, maybe.
So there, I want to confirm a couple of things while we're trying to get this up.
Sure.
That it's staying within the footprint of a deck as you face the water, on the right-hand side of the house, that there is an exposed porch that there's now, and it's staying within that exact same footprint from
That's
back
correct.
and side to side.
Yes.
And the front porch, the one facing the water, is going to remain exposed as is.
In part, Arthur, some of it is filled in for the new living area.
Just the right front
Yes,
section.
just the extension of.
Right. But the remainder to the left is open. And underneath where the current decking is now, and then underneath that is just the ground and sand that can blow in there and things like that. So that's going to be, tell us a little bit more about the foundation that's going to be there.
Well, the existing porch has 6x6 posts sitting on sonotubes. And there's about 11 of those. What we're proposing is since there's going to be a bit more weight because we're filling in that porch and there's a bedroom above, extension to the bedroom above. We're proposing wood piles, 12-inch wood piles as opposed to replace the sonotubes. But
Okay.
essentially in the same places where the current sonotubes are.
So any water flowage that might come up will still freely flow underneath there.
Yeah, and there's actually currently there's a skirt on the house that's doesn't let water flow, but we're proposing a new skirt that has spaces in between horizontal boards to allow water to flow underneath.
Okay, and I guess never mind. Bill, do you have anything up there yet?
No, I'm struggling technically. Okay.
Okay, so the other question, and I don't know if you can answer it tonight. It seemed to be that we're lacking some elevations.
I think I had spoken to Bill about this. There is a note on the plan. It's more detailed to construction. The final elevations, and Jeremiah has not gotten too far into the final designs here, but I just wanted to make sure that the contractor refers to his plans for construction.
Okay.
I did discuss with Bill, and I kind of summarized an email quickly to him this afternoon. The existing finished floor elevation for the house as it sits currently is elevation 15.7. The proposed porch area that's going to be converted to living space will match that elevation as it attaches to the house. So the new living space will be set at 15.7 as well. and that's actually 3.7 feet above the FEMA flood elevation out there. So that exceeds the commission's new requirement that all finished floor elevations within A zones be at least 2.8 feet above the base flood elevation. So we're actually almost a foot higher than that minimum elevation.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is ask Bill for his comments. I want to figure out if we can go ahead and close this tonight, or whether it has to be continued. But Bill, if you would make your comments.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about the technical problems. Things happen with Zoom. Things are not blown up. Yeah, I called Dana. There was just some things that weren't displayed. We didn't have the elevations that were referenced on the architecturals, so that wasn't there. Dana had mentioned to me that the final first floor elevation will be the same as the current one, which is 15.71. And I believe that's NGVD because they're using that standard. We're trying to use NAVD 88 going forward, but that doesn't apply here. So they're more than not only, they're more than 3 feet above the base elevation when you convert it. It accounts for the 2.8 that's required in the revised regulation. So that's all positive. I'd asked him, I mentioned that we need to have impervious tables. I get it. This house has been built in, I believe, the 30s or so, and there isn't a whole lot of alteration, but we do this purposely so that we don't get, actually it's 1900 is built. So we don't get a lot of build out when, other people move in or so on and so forth. But that being said, I think the conservation markers help a lot. I have a lot of problems other than this is not compliant with the incoming. And so that's all I'm saying.
So let me ask any other commissioners if they have any comments.
Well, Joe Ring, all right, Joe Ring.
Go ahead, Joe.
I believe there is some discussion in that area about property lines. Is this building to take place in any of the space that's disputed?
No, I don't believe so. I think that is beyond the rear property line there. Mr. Sullivan could probably speak better to that.
I suspect it is, but I wanted to ask the question.
Yep, sure.
There is no construction that is proposed outside of the area that the dimensions of this lot are 50 by 100. Dan, if you can pull it up and see, and there's no construction proposed anywhere outside that property line, nor outside the existing footprint of the house.
So right, and that was, I think, the reason I asked that on the two parts on the existing footprint, that it's staying exactly within the same footprint of the existing deck that's been there quite a long time.
That's correct.
Are there any comments from the public?
Wait, Rick has one last comment.
Oh, sorry, Rick, sorry.
There was a referral to some large trees in the narrative that we got today. Is there a possibility of maintaining the large trees in the property? I've not visited the site, but I just wanted to ask that question.
I don't believe any of the trees are going to be taken down.
Right, and that's why I think this is a great opportunity to put in the conservation markers. I had the same thing happen to my property, and I must say it's a plus.
We see the trees as a plus as well. It's an unusual feature. As you get down to that level of the street, you kind of look down, and we're one of the only houses down there that has those sorts of trees, and we intend to keep them. My preference would be to not, when you say conservation markers, does that become a condition of the approval? It's our intention to keep them, but I don't know that I'm interested in having it as a condition of the approval. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure.
You broke up a little there, Mr. Sullivan. I could try to explain. The idea is, yeah, right. They would be on the back of the lot. It's over where the dune environment is, and it'll be on either edge. So that way it'll be facing into your house. They usually are 24 inches out of the ground, flat faced or at an angle. And we give you the conservation markers. They say wetland, no disturbance area. So, obviously no disturbance beyond that. It helps keep your other neighbors also aware We're having some dune problems, not a lot down on the other part of this part of the dune environment. Your property looks pretty compliant though. So if you put it up, it starts a good positive trend. It would be part of the orders and conditions. It would be required to stay because they get forgotten and they need to be on the plan permanently, as built and the approved plan.
And so those those are maintained permanently on the property?
Yeah, like if they knock over, you get a new 4x4 and you put another one up. We'll just give that to you. The mark.
I have not seen them, but I don't have a strong feeling about that. So
Yep.
Yeah,
If you
they're
want
not-
to, you're welcome to come over to my house and take a look. They're not very bad. They're very helpful.
okay, got it.
Don't take ours. We'll give you new ones.
Yes. Right. Okay, so I guess no one from the public had any comments, and I need clarification here. Do we have enough information to go ahead and close this, or does this have to be continued because we didn't put those plans up? It's a technicality, in my opinion.
I think we just had a big, comment, Craig and I tonight about these problems. It ends here, kind of, everybody. This is it if it goes through. So this is like a lucky one. So don't do this again.
So what I'm hearing is, unless the chairman or anyone else disagrees, I'm going to make a motion to close and issue orders of conditions with the special conditions. And if I can get a second, and then Bill, if I get the second, go through these conditions.
Joe Ring will second.
Thank you,
Joe
Joe.
Ring.
Okay, Bill, would you go through them? Then I'll go
So
through
to
them.
get this one quick, DO, I'm adding a vegetation note, keep foundation trees and identify on our revised plan that's going to be due 12 noon, Friday, the 21st. So we're going to put 2 conservation markers on the back property lines, Dana. We want to show the foundation trees so that they stay. Register both, then before the commencing the work, register both orders of conditions with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, provide evidence to Conservation Office, post the Mass DEP sign, which is different than the conservation markers. Follow pertinent Marshfield bylaws, obtain all subsequent permits. Dana, you doing erosion control here?
I don't think we really need anything, just due to the nature of the dune and Barrier Beach.
All right, good enough. Applicant shall observe 310 CMR 10.05 requirements that no work shall commence until all applicable administrative appeals have elapsed. Pre-construction site meeting with the conservation administrator per 780 CMR section 105.8. Applicant shall notify the building office official at least 1 business day before the start of work to verify all D1's conditions have been met prior to the commencement of the work. During the commencement of the proposed work, it's your best management practices, NFIP FEMA firm, Chapter 505, 505-204.1 D4, which is the 2.8 requirement, which you've got, and current building codes are followed. Ensure the footprint of the subsurface remains open and use pervious coverage only. That's why we need the impervious table. I'd like to get it on the revised plan that's due 12 noon, 21st, please. Ensure the siding allows for flow through of storm flowage. D3, post-construction of proposed work, provide an elevation cert. And then that's it, except for ensure the footprint of the subsurface remains open and use pervious coverage only. Ensure that siding allows flow through of storm flowage. These conditions remain in perpetuity. And that'd be it, Art.
Hey, thanks, Bill. So I have a second already, and so I'm going to move to the vote. So Susan,
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe,
Joe Ring, yes.
Rick,
Rick Carberry, yes.
Bert,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
and Chairman Hannafin.
Craig, yes.
Greg, and Art Laggy, yes. So it's a 6-0-0. Thank you.
Okay, good. We're making headway.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right,
Good
now
night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Have a good
now
evening.
we're going to be back to schedule. All right. So that's good
Okay.
news.
Now I would like to revert to the beginning of the NOIs and take those remaining in the order that they were on the agenda, which brings us to Brewster Road improvements and stormwater management facilities. And this is continued.
Great.
Yes.
Do you want to do the RDAs first, or do you want to do those? Because originally the RDAs were ahead. It's your call.
I was gonna just put them at the end
All right, okay.
and
Okay.
try to go through these. So, Brewster Road, the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you, Craig. Who is the presenter on this? Is it Mr. McGovern or Attorney Creed?
Mr.
McGovern will be. Go ahead, sir.
presenting. I will be presenting. Mr. Creed is here to clarify me if I make any missteps.
Okay, Terry, I think we went through this all in great detail the last hearing. But I would like you to comment on there was a couple minor revs in the most recent plan. Can you tell us what they are?
I'm gonna, again, try to pop the, just one plan sheet up so that I can show the commission briefly the changes that have resulted.
It's a new link, Terry.
Okay. Okay, so hopefully you folks can see the plan. Much of the discussion over the past several months about this has been providing the proper treatment train prior to discharge, and that's why you brought in Goldman Environmental to review, and they've generated a report regarding all of that. Basically, the changes that have been made is that we've added a treatment unit to the catch basin located at the corner of Chilton Street. We still have the upstream catch basin farther up Brewster Road, which also has an oil gas hood in it. We're providing the required recharge for the pavement area. But at the corner of the subject lot, we're providing a stone diaphragm, a vegetated filter strip, a rain garden with an under drain, a stone filter berm, and the dry detention basin out of which stormwater will make its way to the adjacent wetland area. And
Okay, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was everything that you presented to us before. But there was a change to the under the infiltrated units, that bed changed and one pipe changed. Wasn't that the only changes since previous?
essentially, yes, there's been some mechanical changes to the treatment train. Everything is mostly in the same location, but we've made some mechanical changes to the treatment train. That's correct. And Goldman, these plans actually were submitted in February. I can't remember now. I don't think we've had a hearing since. But the plans that you see, apart from one minor comment that Brian Donahoe had, are the same plans that were submitted back in February. One note I do want to make, and this is for the record, is that we are providing, there's been some back and forth about overall maintenance of this drainage system. And the commission has been provided with an operation and maintenance plan. It's in the stormwater management booklet, if you will, that Goldman reviewed. And it's a pretty intense booklet. But under Section 9, operation and maintenance, there is a construction portion. And then there's a long-term owner-controlled maintenance portion. And the owner will be responsible for inspecting and periodically cleaning out the catch basins when they require it. That includes the storm scepter, which has its own separate manual, which is in your possession. And I want to make sure the commission is clear on this based on some of the conversations I've seen back and forth. This stone filter berm and the vegetated strip, the rain garden, the detention basin, all in this corner, which pretty much extends onto the subject property or is in the immediate adjacent paper street area. That's the responsibility of the owner of parcel J120210 to maintain. And an easement which has been on the plans since the beginning, a drainage easement to the town that encompasses that portion of the drainage structures which lie on the private parcel will be drafted and given to the town, so that in the event, in the event that some future homeowner fails to perform their duties and maintain the basin, the town, as would happen on other sites like a subdivision or where there's discharge such as this, the town has the right to be informed and come in and perform the required maintenance, whether it be fix a pipe, clean out a basin, remove debris. The town has the right to come in and do that and then assess the cost of that back onto the homeowner. So that's contained within that drainage easement, as happens in other cases. So very minor mechanical changes to the plan just to really fine tune the treatment train such that it meets the requirements for the discharge into the nearby ORW. And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay, and just you said that cleaning the catch basins is within the owner's responsibility?
Correct. And that would happen on a periodic basis. It's shown that they're to be inspected. If you think of a typical catch basin, I can tell you the storm scepter, basically that is supposed to be cleaned out when the sediment reaches about 2 foot of depth. So you're not going to necessarily see a vacuum truck out there every single season because it's not going to be necessary. If you look down in that catch basin and you can see the bottom or you can see maybe an inch or so of sediment and it's still, 3 feet below the gas oil hood, there's no requirement that those basins be vacuumed.
Understood. I've read the plan. At this point, there's really no changes in the wetland delineations. Bill, do you have any very brief comments before we go on to try and speak to Brian Donahue?
No, I just like let Brian go, and then I'll speak at the end, Bert. That's it. I really don't have as much to say. This was about pulling together.
Okay, I just wanted Terry to bring up any changes since the last time he presented. At this point, do we have Brian Donahue on?
Brian, he's here. I gotta just get him going here. I saw him. So he's got to unmute. Ask to unmute. There you go. All right. Let me call him. He's struggling. I guess he's here.
While we're waiting, did any of the other commissioners have any questions or comments for Terry?
Those are the only two changes, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, you ready to talk? They want to hear from you. Go ahead. Why don't you announce yourself and get going? Yeah, that's great. Okay. Brian will take over now. Go ahead, Brian. Brian?
Hello?
I don't know what's going on. Hey, Brian, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Brian.
we're hearing you loud and clear, Brian. This is Bert O'Donnell, the hearing officer.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We've read your report. From what I understand, everything that is within the plans now conforms to any of the recommendations that you had made. Can you verify that?
Yeah, Terry and I worked back and forth, and everything that's presented to you tonight is in compliance with the regs and stormwater controls. And you just clarified, I did not put the connection between the plans to talk about just the rain garden and catch basin, but apparently there's a connection back to the other systems up the Brewster Road. If that's in there, that satisfies my concern about operation and maintenance of those systems, so that the entire stormwater control program is good.
Okay, and then the only other thing I had is there was a lot of questions about the outstanding water resource, and you were able to delineate that. Could you just give us a brief summary of where that area is?
Yeah, the ORW relates to that. It's a just for background. I was the director of water pollution control. I brought that program in. We expanded the surface water regulations to include that in our program. So what I included in my report was just a verification from the current person who manages that program. And basically the ORW boundary is exactly the wetland boundary for this location, which you've already agreed to. So there's no impact from that in what has been proposed.
Okay.
There's no boundary, there's no buffer zone to the ORW designation.
Okay, but it's our wetland line, so we have buffer zones, so it's covered in that way.
Yeah, I mean, everything that was been done here with the treatment train accommodates what the ORW program would have done anyway. So if it was an untreated discharge, you might have an issue. But what's been done here, meeting the Wetlands Protection Act standards and the town bylaw standards, you're meeting that obligation anyways, but you're still not discharging directly to an ORW.
Thank you. And thank you for your report. I'd like to open it up to questions from the other commissioners. I don't see. Susan, did you have a question?
No, I don't. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
In that case, Bill, you had some further comments?
No, I think this was a good effort here. It's worked out well. I would just say to you this, that when the original project was approved, it was very close to denial, but it got approved. Now we have the stormwater basin actually on that property. The commission's going to have to wrestle with one, you've got control over the person or the entity that's going to own and maintain and construct that stormwater basin. And there's now no longer a question versus did we have impacts that allowed the original house to be built? So that's something the commission has to think about. You're right to point out that there is no longer an exemption for stormwater basins within the buffer zone. So it has to be approved by the commission as providing a benefit, a mitigation, or not creating a significant adverse or cumulative adverse effect. And so that's
actually, Bill, one point on that, and I don't recall Attorney Galvin's exact ruling, but to me, this has been in front of us since before we voted on the 505s. I believe this was designed by previous rules.
No, that's wrong. What it is that effective March 18th, Bob Galvin said it, and he did say it again. Any open hearing, including this one, the new regulations apply. That's what he said. Craig, you and I probably can confirm that. I never got it writing.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Thank you for confirming. Just for
May
clarity.
I opine on that?
Well, I'm talking. I don't know if the hearing officer is going to let it happen or not.
You'll have your chance, Attorney Creed.
Thank you.
So just closing these out. I'm looking at the special conditions. I've left them open because on a stormwater project like this, there's a lot of nuances. And I'm working on making that happen at this present moment because this is a large project. It's not a subdivision. It's a single house getting a road to get to it, but it's complicated. So I really don't have a lot to add to it except what I've just said so far. And
okay, no particulars, but if we begin to talk about conditions, that'll be we will cover that. Correct?
Yes.
In that case, there were no further questions from the commissioners. I'd like to open it up for public comment. We just heard from Attorney Creed, so I'll let you go first, sir.
Yeah, I think on the issue of the effective date, you need to look to the regulations that you just passed on March 18th, which sets forth in specific language the effective date of your most recent change. And any project that was in place, applied for prior to March 18th, is exempted from these regulations by the definition that you've placed in your 505 regulations that you just passed. And I would suggest that if there's any clarification necessary, that you go back to town council and ask him that, because it's very important, because this is to have a project at the point of being voted upon and having you change the rules at this late date. And after having the applicant expend over $12,000 for peer review, you can't just change the rules at the last minute and then apply them to this project when it hasn't been designed under those rules. So I think it's a very important question. You need clear clarification, and I would ask for it in writing from town council, if that's the rule that's going to apply.
Okay, any further comments on other matters? That one is taken and understood.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe there may be some other commenters out there.
Yeah, Gene Guimond. I'm here on behalf of the Ox family and the Jacobson family, direct abutters. The last few hearings, Kim Croha has been covering this. Unfortunately, she had a conflict schedule, so I have to jump in here, and you'll have to see my face that's made for radio instead of the video. Our comments basically go to the conditions that the commission will find. Overall, we're very happy with the project as it's progressed. To ensure the safeguards of the wells in my client's properties are upkept. One clarification we had, the grass swale that's located in Chilton Road, we want to make sure that there's no prohibition against mowing that. We believe if the grass cannot be mowed, that grass swale will not perform its function, and we may have some issues going back into the well on the Ox property. So when the commission goes to talking about conditions, we'd like that taken up. Also, on the north side of Chilton Road, since this is a private road, the two parties, the Murphy lot and the Ox lot, own to the center line of Chilton Road. So basically where any disturbance ends where the grass swale is, and then I guess there's a erosion control barrier. Anything to the east that's located on the north side that's on the Ox property relative to vegetation, and there's I think like a 35-foot pretty tall white pine tree that's located in that area. We want to make sure that that's not being cleared as part of that. And if you look at Chilton Road, I think there's 4 trees that are going to be planted on the south side, which would be on the Murphy side of the Chilton Road, directly across from the 3rd tree in. On the north side would be where that white pine tree is, and we just want to make sure that's being maintained as part of this project. And then lastly, I deal with a lot of closings in real estate. I know Jay Creed does as well. So some of the conditions that we wanted incorporated into the order of conditions, we wanted to make sure that any property owner that's going to buy this property is aware of the order of conditions in their maintenance obligations. A lot of people wouldn't buy this property if they knew it was there, and then a lot of people are going to be shocked if they go to buy this property. The fact that an order of conditions is recorded at the Registry of Deeds, once you get 20, 15 years down the road, people aren't noting that. And if you go to a closing and you're not represented by an attorney, you're just represented by the closing attorney, they just note that there's an order of conditions, on title, and oh, don't worry, it won't affect you living in this house as a single family residential dwelling. But I would think any property owner needs to be put on notice of these maintenance obligations, and that's why we were requesting, conditions relative to a letter that they acknowledge they've been notified, or at a minimum, it should be recited in the deeds that are recorded that there's an order of conditions that has these maintenance obligations. Because if that property owner doesn't know about it, my two clients are going to be dealing with that property owner who said, oh, nobody ever told us about this. And then the commission's going to be dealing with it. So as long as everybody's put on notice, and if it's in the chain of title, there's no harm in putting it in as a condition. Other than that, we're happy with the project, how it's progressed so far.
Okay, thank you. Are there anybody else in the public that would like to comment? Okay,
if no one else wants to comment, Mr. Hearing Officer, if no one else wants to comment, I would like to make a couple of brief comments about the proposed conditions from the Abutters Council.
Go ahead, sir.
First, I just want to make sure that everyone received my comments in red to the conditions that were proposed by Attorney Crolla.
I believe Bill sent that out to the commission.
We did.
I think when I sent it out to 14 people, and I'm pretty sure all of you were included. One of the conditions that Attorney Crolla requested was that the abutters of Brewster Road and Chilton Road shall have third-party enforcement rights for maintenance, and such owners may perform maintenance of structures or components located in Brewster Road or Chilton Street at their discretion and without any obligation to do so. That condition is certainly beyond the authority of the commission to grant third-party access to private property, and also would be an inappropriate delegation of your power as a conservation commission under Massachusetts general laws to third-party abutters to the property. The abutters have those rights, as Attorney Guimond referenced, the derelict fee statute, which is general laws chapter 183 section 58, and the accompanying general law chapter 187 section 5, which allows for abutters of private ways to install utilities, including water and drainage. So they have those rights in any event, if anything occurs, but they don't have the right to come on to another person's property to make repairs or maintenance. And for that reason, and for the reason that the planning board requires it in all cases when drainage structures or other utilities are located on private property, we'll be providing the town with a drainage easement. As far as notice, one of the other conditions that they asked for was that notice be given and a buyer sign off at the time of PNS, combined with a reference in the deed. I don't mind putting a reference to the order of conditions and a maintenance plan in the deed that's going to be going out. And once I prepare that deed, when the property is out, it'll be continued as part of the description of the property. But I don't want Baker, Braverman, Barbadoro, or any other attorney getting involved in drafting the PNS that we're going to be drafting for the sale of this property. I think that's just too intrusive and it's overkill.
Jay, I would agree with you on that.
Okay. I'm the hearing officer. Please, let's not have a debate back and forth between you two.
I don't want to debate. I wanted to concede it.
Okay.
It's just the three conditions I brought up. That's all we're interested in.
Is there anything
So
further?
If they're abandoning all the other conditions other than those three, then
Those are the only three we're interested in.
Okay, Bill, back to you.
You're muted, Bill. You're muted.
Okay, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna ask the two attorneys. I want to go through, I've got a comprehensive list of these orders.
Okay, but what I am most concerned with is that we definitely ensure that before the house gets built, we are guaranteed that the work on the road gets all completed by the party responsible for it.
Now we can link them. You could link the two then. I'll figure that out in a second. Okay, can I get going now?
Yes.
It's Jay and Jean. I'm going to go over these. I don't think we're doing the first one. Orders of conditions does not create any responsibility or obligations on owners, so leave it out. Owners of lots abutting Chilton Road shall have third-party enforcement rights out. The next one, Marshall cannot convey, correct. Before closing on any conveyance, a lot, aka Brewers, the lender shall submit the signed statement. That's a keeper, okay? So I'll read it. Before closing on any conveyance, lot J120210, aka 0 Brewster, the landowner shall submit to Conservation Commission a signed statement from the buyer stating that the buyer is aware of and received a copy of the order of conditions and understands the maintenance obligations set for herein. So that's a keeper. The maintenance plan is included in the submittal and will be overseen by the appropriate town boards. With its terms and orders and conditions will be recorded together for security compliance when issued, so not needed. All right, the orders and conditions and knowledge of such maintenance responsibility shall be received in any deed transferring title to the property and recorded in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. Are there objections to that? Hearing none, I'll keep that one. The order of conditions will be recorded and therefore part of the record title of the property. That is inherent, so we don't need it. The landowner shall submit an annual report to Conservation Commission identifying the outcome of all inspections and maintenance performed, including photographs taken during inspection. I think that's a keeper. Order of conditions shall be binding in perpetuity on all successors in title and assigns of the applicant, including any contract performing work under the order until I'm going to add this, COC is issued. Do either of you disagree with that?
I'm sorry, but didn't Attorney Dimon just concede all those that they're not going for those, and now we're putting them back in?
I'm asking if that one's a keeper. I'm asking for clarity. That's what I'm asking for.
No,
okay.
You're telling us they're keepers. They're not. They withdrew those. These are Attorney Crowe has requested, and he withdrew all of them, but for the 3 that he spoke of earlier. Okay. Now we're putting them all back in.
Okay. So I just read the 3. Are those you're saying absolutely positively not the 3 that I read?
Gene, can you please repeat the 3 that you want?
So, well, the 3 questions that we had was that the mowing of the open grass swale in Chilton Road isn't prohibited, which wasn't part of what so there's only one out of the ones that we were suggesting that weren't part of the stormwater management would be relative to the order of conditions and the maintenance obligations being recited in the deed transferring title to the property.
Yeah, so that was the first one that I said was a keeper. Before closing on any conveyance.
Yep.
Of J120210, aka Brewster, 0 Brewster, the landowner shall submit to the Conservation Commission a signed statement from the buyer stating the buyer is aware of and has received a copy of this order of conditions and understands maintenance obligations for herein. That's pretty much what he said before, and that was what originally came across.
Yes.
Okay, Jay, any issues?
I thought what we were doing was putting the reference to the order of conditions and the maintenance plan in the deed. Now you want a statement from the buyer that he understands.
Well, that's what he said earlier, and it could have gone either way because he also said it could be in a deed. And I thought that the statement from the buyer or the owner was what was going to be the solution.
Putting it in the deed with the buyer recording the deed basically is an acknowledgement that they're taking subject to that. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's what he said. So you want to go with the deed? Okay, the deed.
Yeah.
Okay. Deed language. Okay. Okay. Acknowledging the special conditions in the OOC. OOC and O&M. Okay. And the other one was all the various trees and so on that you called out, okay? That was a complicated one, but you didn't want the vegetation that was to the east of Chilton eliminated, right?
Well, it's actually to the east of the grass swale and the retention barrier that was on there. There's a white pine tree
Mhm.
and other vegetation. So on the area on the north side, so if you divide Chilton Road in half, they're planting trees, 4 trees on the southern side of Chilton Road. So you'd
Okay.
want to leave the vegetation on the northern side to include the pine tree that's on there.
Okay.
They're not
Gotcha.
proposing any work in there, so I just want to
If
make
I
sure
may,
it's safe.
two things. Gene,
Yeah.
could you possibly have your client mark that tree
Sure.
by putting some kind of a band or a ribbon around it so we can identify it and
Yep.
make sure that it's the tree?
No
And
problem.
I was unaware that we were planting any trees. I
No,
thought we were preserving trees.
We're preserving trees. We're not planting trees.
So the 4 trees on Chilton, Terry, are being, they look very nicely in a nice row.
There's a small stand of cedars that we're preserving, and then there were a couple of other particular larger maples that show up kind of going perpendicular from Chilton to the wetland line that the commission asked us to make sure we're either outside of our disturbed area or to be preserved. Those are the trees that show up on the plan.
All right, I don't know how to read the plan then. It looks like you're planting 4 trees, but
No. You've been gone a while, Gene. We're not.
no, it's the last plan I saw.
Terry, what about that pine tree in question? Is that on the drawing?
No, it isn't. The swale actually, I don't need to bring it back up, but the swale it's about a 6-foot wide grass swale that's going to fit in a 40-foot right of way. And it actually kind of hugs along our northerly property line of the parcel itself. I can go out and survey in the pine tree that's out there. I can't imagine if it's as far back as I think it is, I can't imagine it would be disturbing it. But if he wants to mark it, we'll go take a look at it and shoot it in.
Okay. All right.
And then Bill, the other one was that there's mowing in that open grass swale on Chilton Road.
Yeah, I got the mowing of the grass swale on Chilton Road, the vegetation to the east of the grass swale to remain halfway past Chilton Road, oaks to mark the tree, preserve the pine tree. Right.
Can somebody pull that plan up though? I'm still confused because I swear there's 4 trees right in a row on the southern side on Chilton Road that just look like they're being planted. They're too nice in a row like that.
Let me pull it back up again, Jane. Hold on.
They're miracle trees, Gene.
Okay, Bill, let me see if I'm still co-host, so I should be able to share directly. Let me just get this up right. Okay. These green trees that you see at the corner, these are the cedars.
Yep.
Okay, we're actually pushed the pavement a little to the other side to preserve those cedars. And then you have these other trees that say, these couples say 24-inch maple. These are outside the disturbed area. And then there's one fairly large tree here that there were a couple of broken limbs on. That tree is being preserved. Our stone driveway goes beyond the end of that. We located one other cedar tree next to the utility pole just as a reference.
Excuse me, Terry. I don't think those are the trees that Attorney Guimond is referencing.
No, correct. They're to the east. They're to the east of the grass swale on Chilton
Okay,
Street.
let me bring up the larger sheet. Hang on 1 second. Let me get the larger sheet up.
Those 4 right there on Chilton.
Yeah, I think a couple of those are the existing trees. Let me zoom in on them. There are some white pines in that area. Hang on, let me make sure I've got, okay. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
that's
actually,
one.
Gene, I think this first one that's right under the word private might be the one that you're referring to.
Nah, I think it's on the directly across from the third tree in.
Okay,
Just yeah, right where you had your arrow there.
over here in this area.
Directly across, go north of that third tree. That's roughly the area where that pine is, right in there.
Okay, yeah, that's well away from the drainage swale.
Yeah, I just want to make sure nothing's going on there. But you're not planting those 4 trees? Because that's what I thought they were proposed.
Actually, you know, now that you say that, hang on, let me scroll down. I think those are shrubs, not trees, that we had proposed to put for screening.
With all due respect, I think the concern is for that one pine.
Yeah.
So
And we're-
is it germane to spend a lot of time on whether those are trees or shrubs or to be planted or already there?
Just if they're going to be planted, because I don't think they're there technically.
Yeah, those were originally proposed as shrubs next to the swale.
But
Your
they would
tree,
have
if
been
it's-
part,
if
that
your
would have
tree-
been part of the approved house lot, correct, Terry?
Yeah, those go
So-
back further.
Okay.
So other than preserving that white pine, I don't think we have to dig into
No,
this any
I'm
further.
good. Yep, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, Bill, where were we?
Right, well, we got through that. So I'm just writing up what we're gonna be referencing in A, general information, item 8. We're gonna be referring to the 5/5/2021 revised site plan prepared by Stenbeck and Taylor, William McGovern signing. We're also going to be referring to the 2/16/21 pre and post development plan. We're going to be referring to the stormwater report, which is duplicated in its entirety, Brian? Is that right? Inside of your report? Is the stormwater report duplicated in its entirety inside of your report?
Yes.
Okay, so then what I'll do is I'll reference the revised May 10, 2021 GEC peer review report that includes the stormwater report and all of the other elements.
And
Okay,
that references everything that Terry and I have talked about.
yes. Okay, so that takes care of that. And then Terry had a cover letter that I'm going to get, which I believe was on May 11th. You were busy on May 11th, Terry. On May 11, 2021. So those 4 elements, the entire GEC report, which includes the stormwater report from Terry, the May 11 comment letter from Terry, it was the revised, by the way, report because we had a small change. The 5/5/21 revised site plans, the 2/16/21 pre and post development plan. So that takes care of the raw elements. So all these comments about separate drainage easements, conservation restrictions, details like that are inherent within this. Okay. It is a complicated order of conditions, so that deed language is going to come in handy that Gene suggested and Jay agreed to. Okay, so that takes care of that. You would then coordinate a pre-construction site meeting with the conservation administrator. Oh, let me skip back. Ensure all, okay. Register both sets of doors with Plymouth County Registry of Deeds and provide evidence to the Mass DEP signage being posted. Follow all pertinent Marshfield bylaws, obtain all subsequent permits, ensure erosion controls in place. Applicant shall observe 310 CMR 10.05 requirements that no work shall commence until all applicable administrative appeals periods have elapsed. Provide evidence of completed and signed stormwater drainage standard number 10, a listed discharge compliance statement by the responsible party to the conservation administrator. Okay. Now, did I hear something about linking from Bert? Linking the original house can't be built until the road's built first? Is that what I heard?
Well, we just want to make sure the work gets completed. I'm not sure the best way to accommodate that, but we need to make sure that happens.
Well, you know, you've done this with enforcement.
If I may,
let me finish up real quick, Jake, just get the thought out and then you can jump.
Mhm.
You've done that with enforcement, Mr. Vice Chair, and you've done it with other orders of conditions where you've had things convoluted and they need to get cleaned up, like, Gibbs and the subdivision there. So you could do it and it shouldn't be problematic because town council said we could. So technically what you could do is you could say that we could have a condition here that the road has to be built before, and the stormwater structures before the house gets built. We could just flat out put that, Sequencing. Okay, remember sequencing?
Yep. That's probably the way it should proceed.
Okay, then I would go to D.
I am definitely out of my element on this. We have two attorneys here representing
I raised
two
my hand
sides.
earlier.
Okay,
I recognize Attorney Creed.
Yeah, as a function of the planning board approval, we only have frontage for the house if Brewster Road is built and completed. So we can't obtain an occupancy permit until such time as both roads are in place. So as a function of the planning board's approval, you have that built in. I think a simple reference to the planning board street improvement approval is all you really need here.
Okay, I would say then, what's the harm in doing what Bert was suggesting, and that is putting the house before the road before the house? What's the harm if that's going to be, if it's inherently the same, Attorney Creed? Why can't Bert's suggestion fly? Why is that problematic?
Well, because you're just adding different language to an area that the planning board has jurisdiction over. I mean, you can do it if you want, it's just going to make it more complicated. I mean, I think a reference to the planning board to the planning board's approval is more appropriate because I'll defer to Terry.
Bill, I'm going to raise my hand.
I have one question. We have the possibility of this being appealed, so I'd like to ask Attorney Guimond to comment if he feels the occupancy permit would take care of this.
Well, our preference obviously would be the condition that's been suggested by the chair and the conservation agent.
All right. So Terry, you want to talk? Go ahead.
Briefly, since you made reference to the Adelaide subdivision, I'm going to point out to you, Bill, and to the commission, and that you have had these overlapping jurisdictional issues with Adelaide and with John Sherman Estates, and they are coming back to haunt you, quite frankly. You cannot keep them sorted out. And by the function of the fact that your department, as well as the planning board, ultimately signs off on any building permit issued down the road, which again is a function of the planning board's street improvement policy, you have your check and balance right there. You're just going to create another layer that you will then wonder how you're keeping track of, because you're already doing it in two locations. We've had a tremendous amount of round and round with Adelaide, and I don't think you need it on a single lot. You have that power gets checked at the door when the sign off goes for the building permit.
So
that's where it comes. You're done right there.
Terry speaks well, but I'd like to just say this. We found in the case of John Sherman, the exact opposite happened. Rather than having the dovetailing of the planning and the conservation, they didn't, because they weren't linked close enough. So we learned our lesson there. In other cases, we learned the lesson. Nobody wants to complicate this. They just want to have assurance. And a well-designed project is in everybody's best benefit.
I think this is one of the key points to this. I'd like to ask the other commissioners if anybody has an opinion on this one.
Well, Bert, we're kind of, I'm kind of thinking of starting law school at night, so I can stay on the commission. We spent more time on legal issues, real estate issues, than we have on protecting the environment and upholding the bylaws and so forth. So I'm a chemist and biologist, and I'll tell you, I'm glad I didn't go to law school, because I don't know how you guys do this stuff, but I
used to run ships, so
yeah.
I wish I was a chemist, Mr. Cabri.
What's that, Jay?
I said I wish I was a chemist.
Okay, So can I just be the timekeeper and suggest that, Rick, since you're talking, linking or no linking?
I don't see the harm in a small reference to link them.
Okay,
Okay, let's take a quick poll. Susan?
I'm with Rick. I don't see the harm in having a reference to it. It's why we're here, to protect the resource area. So I don't understand why we wouldn't have it. So
Joe?
Link.
Art?
Art's gone.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Craig?
Craig, I'm fine with a link.
Okay, Bill, looks like we have a link.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is under D2, we'll simply say sequence as follows, and I'll get the language right. All right.
Well, I think it's what Jay said. It's, linking to the planning board.
No, he was saying
No.
that's not right. We were going with Bert's suggestion, link, build the road,
Okay.
and then the house,
Yeah.
Sequence.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so 1, build road and stormwater structures. 1, complete, build house. Okay. All right, and I have in that one, no prohibition on mowing the grass in the swale under D2 during the construction of the proposed work. Post-construction of the proposed work, no prohibition on mowing the grass in the swale. Okay. I can't think of any ongoing conditions that we want to capture. You could say maintenance.
Well, it's all within the operation and maintenance plan, correct? Which is
So, continue, all right, to not enforce the the O&M plan. Okay, pursue the O&M plan. This remains in perpetuity with the current owner of J12, J1202-10, which is AKA Zero Brewster. Okay, it seems like it gets it done.
All right, are we there?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Mercer Road
I'd
was
like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue the special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second, Rick Carberry.
Okay, Rick, your vote.
Rick Carberry's a yes.
Susan Karen?
Susan Karen is yes.
Joe Ring?
Joe Ring is a yes.
Craig Hannafin?
Craig Hannafin is a yes.
And Bert O'Donnell's a yes. It's what, 5-0-0, Bill?
Right, okay. And Art had to leave for personal reasons. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Long,
Thank
hard
you.
process, but well done. Well done.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Bye now.
Thanks all. Good night.
Okay, it is 8:28. We are moving on to Cove Creek Road. Vista pruning. I will read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 6:30 via Zoom. Richard and Joan Curtis, 3 Cove Creek Lane, Marshfield, for vista pruning within riverfront bordering vegetated wetland, salt marsh, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Ring.
Thank you. You have already recited the resource areas, so I am not going to do that. I would like staff to confirm that taxes, abutters, and the DEP number are on file.
Yes, I'll get that done immediately. So taxes on 510 handled, butters 512. The DEP number came on today at 518. Fees were paid 5/4. Legal ad published 6/12/2020. Done.
Thank you. Quick summary. Number of us have been out to this site. There is a number of other projects that we've visited the site on over the years. And the Curtises are proposing to do some vista pruning on the property. The North River watershed has yet to comment on this, and we are still waiting for them. Would anybody for the Curtises like to give us a summary of the project? I think I saw Mr. Curtis here on the list, but I don't see him now. Oh, there he is.
Joe, I will make a brief introduction. Also on the conference is the owner, Rick Curtis, as well as Adam Brodsky. Briefly, I know many of you were out to the site the day I was there with Bill. And effectively, I'm going to do my share screen thing again, and hopefully this will pop up. Traditionally, this site has a view out to Cove Creek in the foreground and the farther North River in the background. And what the Curtises are proposing is that periodically over the years, there are a few trees directly visible over the retaining wall that's in this picture that have been periodically topped by the previous owner, Steve Levangie, who is no longer around. What they would like to do is maintain that vista through that area. I can share the other pictures as well. And then there's an area that extends over to, this shows the expanse going across the middle, if you can see this picture. And there's one more that extends a little bit farther to the north, and then extending back to the south along Cove Creek. There's an area where they would like to be able to open up. Hopefully these are coming up. Oops, says.
You got a problem?
No, it just says it paused the share. Apparently it didn't like the third picture.
Yeah, it's acting a little weird tonight.
Yeah. So there's an area back to the south that they would like to take a vista through a middle portion. Make sure this is up.
Those were the pine trees to the left, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's an area back to the, back as you approach the dock that they wish to prune kind of a mid-range of branches so that they can view the creek and also have a view of anybody coming up the creek. If they're driving up and, you know, somebody's in the house watching whoever's coming in, they want to make sure they get in and maneuver into the float safely, they can do that. So they want to create just a window in that area. That trimming will not affect any of the ground cover. There is no equipment or heavy machinery proposed to be brought into the site in order to do so. The tree company was out there and they simply proposed to climb the trees, prune the necessary branches, drag them up. Not sure if there's any thought to putting a little wood chip path down there with some of the smaller scraps, but there's not going to be any heavy equipment brought into the site. And that's the extent of what Mr. Curtis is looking to do out there. I know that he and his wife have spoken to a number of you regarding that, you know, that operation. So I will turn it over at this point to either Rick or Adam to add comment to this.
Thank you, Terry, for all your hard work. And it was nice. I met Susan recently, and I talked to Joe on the phone on Saturday. And of course, I met up with Bill last Thursday, explaining everything to them. And if you commission members have any questions, oh, and of course, Madam Chair was out there before with Terry and Keith and Bill, Keith Wallow. But if you all have any questions, again, to echo Terry, I'm talking about a precision pruning process here where I explained to Joe and to Susan that I'm going to stand up on our porch deck out here with one of the tree experts who have two-way radios in their helmets. And as the guys are up in the trees, we're going to talk back and forth. And I'll be able to speak to them and say, wiggle that little branch. Yep, that one there. And wiggle that little branch and that one there. So that's the extent of it, other than topping the 4 or 5 trees you saw in the picture that Terry put up to keep that low enough so that we could see the creek at all times. And also Bill made a great suggestion that we may be able to put this in perpetuity so that I don't have to come back to the board and bother you all and give Terry more work and my attorney, Adam Brodsky, more work. That we could put it in and make it a part of the deed that we'll be able to do this every 3, 4, or 5 years as it necessitates. And also I was able to talk to Bill about some little issues and Joe Ring about little issues, i.e. vines growing up on those trees that you saw in the picture that Terry put up that are detrimental to the tree. And I already went out there the other day, Joe, you'll be happy to hear. And I cut those vines down and stop them so that they're going to die right off. And also I brought to Bill's attention that we have 2 big, beautiful holly trees down in that area of question that have what they call a holly leaf mite. And that I'm going to have to get those sprayed so that they will not die. And Bill suggested also that we could put that in maintenance ongoing for those 2 holly trees. But other than that, that's pretty much all we're talking about. And if any of the commission members have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Mr. Curtis, this is Adam Brodsky. I have nothing to say. I'm hearing support, but obviously the commission recognizes that vista pruning is an allowed activity under the state regulations and oftentimes exempt from regulation. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, do you have any comments to add to this?
No, I've been down there. I've talked to Mr. Curtis, and we talked about how we got to where we are right now. And there's some past on it. I think you definitely, this has to be also approved by the commission, North River Commission. So one of 2 things has to happen. You have to wait till you get an opinion on that, or you condition and say the work can't start until you have a subsequent permit from the North River Commission. The property had some history before Mr. Curtis took over. It's a very, very thin buffer zone. It's maybe 15 feet wide. Trees have been thinned, etc., and now they're going to be thinned a little more. So I did talk to him about photosynthesis and keeping the trees healthy and everything, and he took heart to that. And then that opened up the conversation about vines and the plantings and maintaining the hollies and a little bigger picture. And he does want the periodic maintenance. So question is this going to be allowed by the commission or not? And Adam's right. It's an activity of work that needs a permit from the Conservation Commission to go forward. But it's allowable, but it needs a conservation permit. And I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. We reached out to the North River Commission, and we do know that they haven't heard from you guys yet. So we have to somehow link or coordinate that.
Mr. Graffin, I would just remind the commission that you have a standard condition that says that the work cannot commence until all other permits have been obtained. So if we need additional authorization from the North River Commission, that's a separate process. So I don't think that should delay the close of the public hearing this evening.
I don't disagree with that. We can add in the North River Commission. They may require more work. They may not, based on the past. And I think the concept of revegetating, which I think Mr. Curtis has taken heart to, would be a good idea for the Conservation Commission and the North River Commission.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate Mr. Curtis's interest in trying to take care of the plantings that were out there and and his property. It sounded like he had the best interest of everybody in mind when I spent quite a bit of time with him this past weekend. Is there any discussion from committee members?
Could I just say, Mr. McGovern said there is a traditional view here. In fact, there was never a view here. This is an altered landscape. That being said, yes, vista pruning is allowed. Mr. Curtis, you cut your vines. That's merely going to reinvigorate them. That's smilax, greenbrier. It would be really great if there could be some plantings done in that area to the left over by your dock of salt tolerant plants, because that would really benefit that area. If you could do high tide bush, bayberry, things that will survive, because those vines are going to be an ongoing situation and they're going to keep weakening the trees.
Yes, Madam Chair, I agree with you. And yeah, and Bill brought up some suggested vegetation plantings, sweet pepper bush and the high bush blueberries and the winterberry. And I had never heard of them before. And I'm an old landscaper from years ago. But just to your point, though, over to the left, that's not where the greenbrier is. The trees that I was talking about cutting the vines, and to Joe's point that he noticed it when he was here, is straight away at that picture that Terry showed all of you with those trees that we're proposing to top. That's where the most of the greenbrier is. And I'll be glad to look into planting any of this vegetation down the road. Certainly, I'm more inclined to do it sooner than later. And Susan was talking about it, and even Joe was talking about how they had to travel some distance to pick up these very unusual plants. And I'll be more than happy to work on locating them. However, I just want to see if I can get the permit on the pruning done first and take care of that. And then as a course of action for the near and distant future, it's in my best interest to make sure that my property is cared for in the right manner. And if that means planting vegetation to suffocate the greenbrier and help get rid of it, that's my ultimate goal.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Is there any comment or discussion from members of the public?
Actually, Joe, I had one comment. Looking at the plans briefly, do we have a number of the principal trees there, so that we can keep track? If this pruning winds up killing off some trees, eventually they should be replaced.
Sorry.
Terry, you must have a number then.
You don't have, I don't have a specific tree count, if you will, apart from the 5 maples that are across the main, kind of the main view area. When you get into the pines, there's another cluster of about a half a dozen to 10, roughly 12 to 18 inch pines in that area that are going to have some selective pruning done. I think you could make a simple condition that if any of the trees are damaged, that they be replaced. But I don't think that's going to happen, but you could make it a simple condition.
Who asked for that? Which commissioner asked for that? I have a panel, and maybe what we do is we get Mr. Curtis to mark that up a little, and that'll become part of the general information item 8, because you can have the plan and you can have alternative information as well. Yeah or no?
Sounds good. I like that.
So Joe wants that. All right, then I will do that. So Mr. Curtis, I got to get with you and take this panel, and we got to doctor it up a little, okay? On what you're going to be doing, so the commission has the information permanently on record.
Yep, sounds good. And I feel confident, more than confident, that the selective pruning that we're going to be doing is not going to hurt any trees, because I thought, I'm an old landscaper and arborist for years, and I would not do anything that would threaten the trees. But also, it'll be very easy to identify any trees that are damaged, because if they're going to die, it's going to take a long time to do that, and that'll be easily identifiable. But that's okay. I'll be glad to mark it up.
Yeah, that's painless. Done.
Okay. So if there is no objection, I would like to propose a motion to close and issue orders of conditions with the special conditions that Bill will outline for us.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Hearing Officer. So, Rick, you're going to register both sets of orders with the Plymouth County State Registry of Deeds. There's a state of town version before you start the work, all right? You're going to post a Mass DEP sign. It'll be on page 5, General Condition 10, tell you the size of it, Mass DEP, SC 42. What's the number on this? 2926. You're going to follow all Marshfield bylaws. You're going to obtain all subsequent permits, including the North River Commission, before starting. Applicant shall observe all 310 CMR 10.05 requirements that no work shall commence until all applicable administrative appeals periods have elapsed. Coordinate pre-construction site meeting with me, so we'll get the panel at the same time and get this done. During the construction period, ensure that best management practices are followed. Okay. Post-construction of proposed work, ongoing conditions, option to perform periodic maintenance of the approved activities, vista pruning, invasive opportunistic vine control by hand, and native plantings. We'll put down, including salt tolerant, because the chair wants that. Okay, within the 0 to 50-foot setback. We're going to reference a pano shot that you and I are going to mark up. And it'll basically show the trees that are going to be, limbed, basically. We can do that together. That would be it.
I think you said that was it, right, Bill?
So that's it. Time for a second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Susan. So with that, I would like to start a vote. Bert.
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Susan.
Susan Karen, yes.
Rick.
Rick Carver, yes.
Madam Chair.
Craig Hannafin, yes.
Joe Ring will vote a yes, and I believe that brings it to a 5-0-0. So the motion passes. I would like to thank everyone for their hospitality and interest in the environment through this project. It was greatly appreciated.
Yes, I would like to second that. Thank you, Mr. Curtis, for doing the right thing. And I would recommend that going forward, if you do look into planting shrubs, etc., in that area, you might want to contact one of the many very qualified wetlands consultants in this area. They can easily source the plants.
That's a great idea, Madam Chair. And Bill, maybe you could help me with that and give me a couple of names that I can source. Yeah. That would be very helpful to me. I appreciate it. And I want to thank the ladies and gentlemen of the commission for the second project, in addition to our dock earlier, which we're, according to Mr. Wallow, is going to start driving the piles tomorrow. So we're moving forward. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Curtis, before you leave, I have one offer for you. I am placing another order of my high tide bushes in the lake from the place that you get them in Maine. If you'd like some more, I'm driving up there and I have no problems throwing some in the back of the truck.
Okay, well, Mr. Graffett has my cell phone number, so grab it and give me a buzz, and I'll be happy to accommodate you. That's for sure. That'll save me a trip, Joe. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's kind of linking right there, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all very much. And
thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all. Terry, thank you. And Adam, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we are on to 179 Old Main Street, Marshfield, Mass. This is a new notice of intent. I will read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021, via Zoom. For Ryan Hastings, P.O. Box 27, Marshfield Hills, for the relocation of a barn and septic system within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland at 179 Old Main Street, Marshfield, Mass. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Bill, taxes, abutters, and DEP number is all in order?
Yeah, Mr. Hearing Officer, taxes 510, butters 511. File number came in on the 13th. Gatehouse media and fees were paid in 5/4. We sent, actually published the legal ad in 5/12. You're all set.
Okay, thank you. I see Mr. Hastings. Are you going to present, or we got somebody else here to present your project?
I will not be
I'm here.
presenting. I will let Rick do that.
Oh, okay. Haven't seen you, Rick.
All right. Hi, everybody. Rick Savant from Stenbeck and Taylor. Bill, I was wondering if I could share my screen. It might be helpful to go over this.
Certainly. Give me a sec there, Rick.
Sure.
Good to see you, man. Let's see. There's a lady named Ann Stenbeck here. I almost got fooled by that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Where are you? All right. There's Rick S. Sign the co-host. Okay, go ahead. Yes. All right.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, you see that?
Not yet, Rick.
Yeah.
Wow. This is different, Bill. Okay, well, I can't
try?
I can't see it, so.
No, it's
coming.
It's coming, Rick. Have faith.
You have a blue screen.
Yep, it's coming. A little slow.
How about that?
We've got your. You've got your.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna move on without. I can't. Not seeing any prompts, Bill. When I go to share my screen with you.
Yeah, but
yeah, just go ahead and open that PDF. You're on it.
You see that?
You have to open it first.
It didn't
It's
open once, Rick. I think.
It says my screen sharing is paused.
Oh, God. All right, let's see what's going on there. Try it.
All right, well, I can move on without it, just to keep things moving, if that's okay.
Well, you want me to? I'll get the plan if you want. I mean, I'll get it for you.
Sure, go ahead. I'll start presenting this.
Well, start your narrative, Rick.
Absolutely. So presenting this for Mr. Hastings, basically we have a proposed project within a buffer zone of a BVW. The BVW is located off the rear of the property. The homeowner is proposing to put an addition on the existing house and a new swimming pool behind the proposed addition. This new work is going to require that there's an existing barn there and a septic tank to be relocated to accommodate these new structures. I think you probably had a chance to go out there and saw that beautiful barn that's there. Because of the addition and the proximity of everything, it just doesn't fit. The homeowner would like to relocate it towards the rear of the property. We've pretty much got it. The only place it can be moved and where it's accessible to be moved. As you can see, we have a septic system back there where the building movers looked at it. He can put it in that position. Basically, we'd like to move it to the rear. As you can see, the proposed offset from the wetlands is 39 feet. The septic tank, which is currently behind the existing house, which will be in the basement of the proposed addition, is going to have to be moved back in that area also. That's proposed at 91 feet off the wetland area. The area that we're proposing to work in is all an existing lawn area, as you've probably seen from going out there. The new barn kind of the process for doing this. There'll be a new foundation construction out there first. The building mover will obviously move the building out back and place it on the new foundation. Once that work is done, then the tank can be moved out. We couldn't move the building until set the tank until after the building's moved. As you can see, there's some grading involved around the proposed barn. The type of the structure that it is, you can see it has a walkout lower level and a ground level access. So in order to accommodate that out at the rear, what we've done is match the grade at the rear of the building for the walkout. And as you can see, it requires some small retaining walls and some grading to accommodate access into the main level of the barn. Not a whole lot of grading. There's some there. Those retaining walls are about 3 feet high. The longer wall on the right side as you're facing the barn is about 18 feet. And there's about 3 feet of fill going in there to accommodate that, to allow access. As far as the buffer zones there, you can see about 75 feet of it is existing lawn area. Approximately 25 feet of it is a naturally vegetated buffer that's there beyond the edge of the lawn. I have the impervious table. As you can see, there's no structures in the buffer zone now or impervious coverage. We'll be proposing a total of 354 square feet in the buffer zone of new impervious area that's there. Excellent. So I know I went over a lot there, but I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have and go over some things maybe I didn't cover. Also, there's providing a silt sock around the construction area before anything happens out there to protect the wetland area.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Bill, your comments on the wetland line?
Yeah, the wetland line looks fine. A couple of flags, number 1 and 2 there, they were actually basically stakes in the ground because the soils were very soggy. There's a pretty clear wet area back there with about, I don't know, maybe a 5-foot buffer that's got grass clippings, rocks, whatever. It's not terrible, but it's just not there 100%. The structure is moving from one location down to closer to the wetlands. This is a historic property. So it was built in, I hope you got it, but this down like the 1800s.
Around 1890 it was built.
Yeah.
So the question that comes up is, does this require a variance or does this require a mitigation permit because it's going closer? And then there's the age of variable also. So we have the new regs, or not the new regs, but the revised regs. So that's something you have to consider. I did speak to Mr. Hastings, and absent that, he was willing to work with the commission on mitigation in between the 0 and the 25. I didn't say the whole 25, but that area sort of. And so it's something that you might want to consider. It's a very tight lot. He showed it to me. There's really not a lot of places you could put this because it would have conflicts, and you do want to see that from the house. So the location is complicated. He's actually got the barn on top of some of the grade changes there for the septic system. So he's doing what he can to conform.
Okay, understood. And this is going to take a little interpretation of the new regs. I would have thought that it's outside of the 25. To me, that would have been permissible. And then I saw the line about no structures may be closer than they already were. I would assume that anything outside of 50 is fine because we'd allow that to be done in anything other than a brand new lot. Correct?
Yeah, brand new lot, structure at 75, mitigation permit down to the 50 with 110% mitigation. This one's a little trickier because it's really older. So I don't know if it's a straight 25. He's at the distance to the wetlands. He doesn't show it. Yeah, he does 39.9.
Okay, forget about that, Bill. I'm talking about the structures.
Yeah, Bert, structure too, and it's.
I see
39
I see a small amount of the barn that's between the 25 and the 50.
Yeah,
So
but- Sure, that's the problem.
Right.
that,
Sorry, can
okay. I'm sorry, who's speaking?
That was me, Rick. Could I just comment on that while we're talking about the new regs?
Yeah,
Or do
go
you want
ahead.
me to wait?
Go ahead.
I agree. I believe that it would meet the criteria of 505-2061C for a 25-foot buffer. Land within a 100-foot buffer resource encompasses lots developed prior to 2002, has buildings currently existing on the lot, required to meet a 25-foot setback. And I interpret that in any event, no new structure shall be closer to adjacent resource areas than any existing structure, that would be in a tight situation where you had a building that was 24 feet off. You couldn't get any closer than 24. You'd have to match that. Is my interpretation that we meet the 25-foot setback for this structure under section C.
That's pretty close to the way I see it also. Bill, briefly, have you got any other, obviously you have different feelings on that.
No, I don't have feelings. I tell the guy who writes the minutes that I suggest and I identify and I state. That's all I do. So I brought this to your attention because the commission needs to deliberate on it. Is it a straight 25 or does this language put you where you have to have mitigation? Again, Mr. Hastings was willing to work with the commission absent all of this.
Stop. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm only concerned about whether or not that structure requires mitigation. I'd like to hear from the other commissioners.
It sounds to me like the interpretation that Rick just shared is kind of the way I interpret it as well.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
I agree.
Okay, is there anybody that sees it differently from that?
No, I'm in agreement.
Okay, in that case, unless somebody sees it different, we agree. We agree it's outside of the 25. It's all existing lawn. I think it works. Now I would like to talk about some conservation markers at the rear of the property. And I think we see the edge of the lawn going almost straight across there. There's actually there's a gentle slope going back, and then it takes a steep slope right at the end. My thought is if we could just bring it upgrade a little bit and let that grow in to create a better buffer zone from the lawn to the existing 25-foot buffer zone. Would the other commissioners like to comment on that?
I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Bert.
Rick, would that be acceptable to your client?
We've discussed that might be an option. I believe that we are open to that. So we're talking about the 25-foot buffer, just upgrading slightly from the edge of the lawn, let that area revegetate.
Yeah, and but I would bring it right straight across. Your whole 100-foot across, and not curve in.
The 25. Yep.
Yeah,
right.
you said, Bert, you mean the 25?
Extend that right over to the fence.
Yeah.
Ryan, are you open to that?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand, I'm interpreting it correctly. So essentially taking the 25, the closest point in which it's, I guess, the furthest point to the home, right? And drawing a straight line across from one side of the property to the other.
I think Bert was talking about the closer point to the closest point to the barn.
Right.
Yeah, somewhere in between, but use that edge of the lawn as your line, and maybe just come up, if your lot is 100-foot wide, so if you came up 5 feet, you've got 500 feet of 500 square feet. I think that makes up for a lot.
Yeah. That sounds pretty reasonable, Ryan. I don't know how you feel about that. 5 feet up
You
from the edge of the
wouldn't have to
lawn, right
mow
across.
over that, you wouldn't have to mow over that steep edge.
I can sell my mower.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I was telling when Bill came out the other day that I'm in fully support of increasing the vegetation and whatever it may take. It's important. I mean, as Bill may have seen, there's walking trails through the woods. I've taken the Cub Scouts out there. The environmental part of this is important to me and teaching my 5 kids. So the more we can do back there, the better for me.
Okay, that sounds good. Bill, I didn't notice, is there anything out there that needs to be cleaned up?
I don't think it's needed, Bert. I think it's the markers. That's it.
Okay, and I would propose 3 markers, 2 on the lot lines and 1 in the middle, so every 50 feet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, got that.
That's just my proposal. Other commissioners,
I'm fine with that.
That's good.
in that case, Bill, do you see any other special conditions needed?
No, I'm going to kill the annual monitoring. We're not going to be doing mitigation and the conditional monitoring. The markers will stay in perpetuity, and so you just replace them, Mr. Hastings, when they get broken and so on. You get the markers from us, but the post you buy at Lowe's or whatever.
Okay, I'll tell the kids not to touch them.
Don't make frisbees out of them.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Joe Ring, second.
Thank you, Joe. And your vote, Joe Ring?
Joe Ring votes yes.
Susan Karen?
Susan Karen, yes.
Rick Carberry?
Rick Carver, yes.
And Craig Hannafin?
Craig Hannafin, yes.
And unless I forgot anybody, I'm a yes also.
Bye, Lolo.
Joe, Bill.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank you,
night.
everyone.
Thank you, Craig.
Hey,
Thank you.
Rick.
Thanks.
Rick,
Thank
before you go, we got to get together by 12 noon Friday on this one. It's a slam dunk. Maybe you could send it digital to me.
Yeah, I'll slam dunk it tomorrow morning.
That's great. Send it to Eric and me, please. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you to the commission. I appreciate your work.
Have a great day, Mr. Hastings.
Thank
Thank
you. Okay, Calcagny, 167 Planting Fields Road. This is continued, so I do not need to read the legal ad. Rick, are you prepared to take for Art?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We still have the shared screen up from,
Yes, my bad. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
So this is an RDA or an NOI?
This is
This
already.
is an NOI.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, so it's a single family house, so it's a new NOI, 167 Planting Fields Road. And it's continued, so taxes and abutters and DEP file numbers are all set, correct, Bill?
Correct. We actually went through that on the 20th of April, correct.
Okay, there are no resource areas to be concerned of. There is a bordering vegetated wetland, previously disturbed lot. I guess part of the planting fields build out, there has been some filling that's been done over there. Who is with us tonight to summarize the project for us?
Good evening. This is John Zimmer with South River Environmental. Mr.
John.
Calcagny is here as well.
How are you tonight, John? Go ahead.
I am doing well. How are you, sir?
Good.
Excellent. So I'll give a quick summary. What Mr. Calcagny is proposing to do is construct a new single-family home within the approximately 4-acre parcel. There's only a small portion of the house that's located within the 75-foot buffer zone. The remainder of the driveway and the septic system are located outside of the 100-foot buffer. We did Mr. Grafton, Mr. Flint, myself did review the wetland boundary, made a couple of changes to the original line and added a secondary wetland along the far property line, which is reflected on the updated site plan that was submitted. The other thing that we were waiting on is that the property is mapped as rare species habitat. So at the time of the original hearing, we did not have correspondence back from Natural Heritage. Since that time, we have received a letter back from them. It's mapped as eastern box turtle habitat, and Natural Heritage indicated that they had no issues with the project, with the condition that if Mr. Calcagni was to go to construction between April and the end of October, which is basically the active season for eastern box turtle, that an eastern box turtle protection plan be submitted to Natural Heritage for approval prior to the start of work. So we're in the process of pulling that together now, and that's basically going to entail encircling the entire workspace with silt fence, and then conducting pre-construction turtle surveys to make sure that any turtles that are within the proposed development footprint are relocated outside of the workspace. If you remember a year or so ago, there was the expansion at Couch Cemetery that was proposed, and that's basically the same type of protocol that was approved for Couch Cemetery, basically just isolating the workspace and clearing any turtles out. I think they'll require a total of 10 to 15 hours of intensive surveys to make sure that any turtles there are relocated. So that's pretty much the project in a nutshell. There's no proposed work within the 50. Everything, there's some landscaping and lawn installation within the 50 to 75, and then the small portion of the structure, sum total, the new impervious within the buffer zone is, maybe around 2,400 square feet out of the 4-acre lot. So it's fairly de minimis with respect to the entire property.
Okay.
So I think that's about it. I'd be happy to answer questions that you may have. I did, provide a recommendation that, if the commission is interested, that a copy of the turtle protection plan be provided to the commission, so you have that for your file once it's submitted to Natural Heritage.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, John. I have taken over for Art because he had to run this evening, and I've not been out to the site to view the property and compare the plans and so forth. But the homework that I've done before the public hearing tonight, and reviewing the notes the administrators have put together, you guys did update some of the flagging, and there was another ivy wetland that you demarcated, and the Natural Heritage response had not been received when the notes had been written. But, I think you've heard from them now. You've got to have a plan for these eastern box turtles. It sounds like you're working on that. So it sounds like things are in pretty good order for this. Bill, you have any other comments to make?
Yeah, we actually got that letter, Rick, and I did sort of incorporate it in. I know you're just taking this over. I'm sorry, I didn't connect earlier. So we do have that captured for you, okay? What John was suggesting was Mr. Calcagni might want to do work before November 1st, which is time of year constraint, through April 1st. And in that case, what he'll do is he'll get a turtle protection submitted before he'll start the work. So I incorporated that in, figuring that Mr. Calcagni wants to get going on this. I also think that you saw my notes. I think we need some conservation markers. It's already built out. There'll be a lot of temptation to dump things. There'll be a lot of temptation. It's a really nice wetland beyond here, below. I'm suggesting conservation markers along the 50 or the tree line, which is ever's up gradient. And I can work with Bob Crawford and John to get that resolved pretty quick. But I really think you really need that to round this puppy out.
Yep, and I did speak with Mr. Calcagni before the hearing, and he's absolutely amenable to putting conservation markers in at the 50.
Okay, good. No, we appreciate you being supportive along those lines, John and Mr. Calcagni. Other commissioners, comments, questions, concerns? Okay, hearing none. Any comments from the public, abutters, lawyers, doctors? Anybody out there that wants to speak about the project? I mean, Mark, we do have a lawyer still on here, so speak up anytime. But hearing no comments from the public, can I make a motion to close the hearing with special conditions? Can I get a second, please?
Second, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Bill, do you want to share the conditions and incorporate the turtle plan and the markers that you're going to work out with the project owner and John, please?
Yeah, I will. Before I get going, this is so silky smooth, Rick. I think you're going to get all the hearings going forward.
Yeah, just dump them on Rick whenever somebody's got to go. So
just, Craig and I really appreciate you. So
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
Before commencing the proposed work, register both sets of orders with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds and post a mass DEP sign. So that gets done before you start. All pertinent Marshfield bylaws. Obtain all subsequent permits, including the Marshfield Building Department, Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals, any other pertinent permits. Applicant shall observe 310 CMR 10.05 requirements that no work should commence until all applicable administrative appeal periods have elapsed. Reference to Natural Heritage Data Species File Number 21-40146 and project description single-family home. Observe and comply with the time of year constraint November 1st through April 1st, or provide a turtle protection plan to the Conservation Administrator. That's before starting the work, Mr. Calgagny. Coordinate pre-construction site meeting with the Conservation Administrator. Per 780 CMR section 105.8, applicant shall notify the building official at least one business day before the start of work to verify all D1 special conditions have been met prior to the commencement of work. During construction of work, ensure best management practices, current building codes are followed. Ensure the turtle protection plan remains intact throughout the construction phase or work outside the phase of work under TOY, which is time of year constraints. Post conservation markers to be worked out with Bob Crawford, John, or what?
Yes, yeah, we'll coordinate with Bob and get a revised plan in.
I want to do that quick. All right, work with Crawford. Always a pleasure with Crawford. Okay. And it's going to be the 50 and then the tree line. Okay. Red and white Marshall wetland resource no disturbance on 4x4 rot resistance. Conservation markers are supposed to remain in perpetuity. Damage or decayed conservation posts and markers shall be replaced. Blowing vegetative management is prohibited. Beyond the conservation markers, it's called dumping also. Okay, just in case. All right, there we go. This condition remains in perpetuity. Sure, the footprint of the subsurface within the 100-foot buffer remains open or use previous coverage only. And then post-construction, ensure that the footprint of the subsurface within the 100-foot buffer remains open or use previous coverage only. This condition remains in perpetuity. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill, for sharing those with us. Okay, we have a second, so we'll do a roll call vote now. Commissioner Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Commissioner Susan?
Karen, yes.
Chair Craig?
Craig Hannafin, yes.
Vice Chair Burt?
O'Donnell, yes.
And Rick Carver is also a yes. So we have a 5-0 passing. Smooth as silk. Smooth as
Thanks
silk.
very much.
Okay. On to the RDAs. My apologies to those of you who started out at the top of the agenda and ended up at the end. We had an unusual circumstance. So that being said, we have, oh, wait a minute, wrong one. Okay. Where is it? Sorry. Okay. 252 Cariswell Street. Legal notice. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 via Zoom for Teresa Flavin at 252 Cariswell Street to determine whether the area depicted on the plan and or map area are subject to jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act and whether the work and addition depicted on the plan is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, and whether the area or work depicted on the plan is subject to the jurisdiction of any municipal wetlands ordinance or bylaws in the town of Marshfield at 252 Careswell Street. And the hearing officer is Susan Karen.
I'd like to confirm, are the taxes and fees taken care of, Eric?
Yes, taxes were confirmed on May 10th.
Okay, so is there anyone here to present this? I don't believe there is. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mrs. Flavin has actually asked that I present this case on her behalf.
Yes. Well, I go right ahead. I won't repeat what you're going to say. So go right ahead. Thank you, Eric.
Okay, thanks. So Mrs. Flavin came into the office to discuss this project with Bill and I. She's looking to put in a 1-story 11 by 28 addition with a bathroom for her son who's disabled. She wants him to be able to live with her on the property and stay in the town where he grew up. The addition slightly overlaps with the 80 to 100 foot buffer zone, and then a large portion of the addition is outside of that area to a bordering vegetated wetland. Mrs. Flavin had previously come before the commission for a above ground pool. This was back SC 42 1940. On May 10th, I visited the site with Commissioner Karen. We noted the area of work was previously disturbed lawn in a fenced-in yard with the pool that I just mentioned that the NOI was pulled for. The area of work within the buffer zone will be small, roughly 200 square feet, and it doesn't appear that there would be any significant or cumulative adverse impact on the resource area. I thought this one was pretty straightforward. We were able to identify the wetlands based on cross-referencing Mass GIS with the site plan from the earlier NOI. So we're pretty confident in the setbacks that we determined when going over this with Mrs. Flavin. That's all I have on this one. So any questions, let me know.
Any commissioner comments on this?
No.
Okay. I agree with everything that Eric said. It feels it's clearly it's only 80. It's the distance from the BVW is within compliance. So I have no issues with this. Do we have any public comments, abutters, anybody? Seeing none, what I would like to do is at this point, I will make a motion then to approve this project with a positive determination for the +5 for the bylaw and a -3 with special conditions. And I'll ask for a second for that. May I have a second?
Joe Ring, second.
Okay. Would you like to read the, Eric, would you like to read the special conditions?
Yep, we have ensure best management practices are followed. Before commencing the work, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits, and see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
Okay. With that, I'll take a roll call vote. Craig Hanifin?
Craig Hanifin, yes.
Rick Carberry?
Rick Carberry, yes.
Bert O'Donnell?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Joe Ring?
Joe Ring, yes.
And Susan Karen, yes. So that's 500. So we're all set.
Excellent.
Thank you, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
On to 15 Prospect Street. Legal notice in compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, May 18th via Zoom for Ann Stenbeck and Peter Kundal at 15 Prospect Street to determine whether the area depicted on the plans is an area subject to jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act, and whether the work, vegetative management, and minor structural improvements depicted on the plans is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, and whether the area work is subject to the jurisdiction of any municipal wetlands ordinance or bylaws of the town of Marshfield. And the hearing officer is once again Commissioner Karen.
Okay, thank you. Eric, can you confirm taxes and fees are all set?
Yes, taxes were confirmed on May 10th.
Okay. Thank you. And I believe John Zimmer is here to present this. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Again, John Zimmer with South River Environmental. Eric did such a good job on that last one. I thought he was going to do this one too.
Well, we could go back if you'd like, John.
No, that's fine. It might be easier if I share my screen. Is that okay?
Sure.
Shared content participants, that's Simmer. Where are you? Bang. Make a co-host. There you go. Okay, give it a try. Did you get the invite? Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, just a quick overview of the property. It's located at 15 Prospect Street. There's an existing residence in this area, septic system right here. And there's a small pond located in this area. In working with the owners, who Ann and Peter, who are on with us tonight, I redelineated the wetland boundary. Brad Holmes had flagged it a while ago, and I had updated the flagging. And there's several minor activities that they'd like to do, so we figured it would be best to package everything up into a single RDA and submit it. So I'll just kind of walk through what they're looking to do. Within the area, basically, you can see the tree line here. That's an existing vegetated buffer down to the pond. And then from this tree line up, you can see it's a fairly steep slope up to a retaining wall that's currently lawn. And then there's a retaining wall that's kind of gravel with some grass, a small deck, porch off the back of the house. So what they're looking to do first and foremost is to go in and do some work within the buffer, within the tree line, to remove invasives and opportunistic species. There's quite a bit of Japanese knotweed, garlic mustard, sumac, multiflora rose, honeysuckle, that's kind of clogging up that buffer area. So they'd like the ability to go in and selectively hand cut those invasives and remove them and replant the area with some native wildlife friendly species like sweet pepper bush and high bush blueberry and things that are going to provide better habitat value and won't climb up and kill all the existing trees that are there right now. So that would actually occur within the 25, but would all be done by hand without the use of any herbicides or pest or other types of chemicals. Just all handwork and removal. In addition to that, there is some yard waste which is located down in this area that the applicants haven't been dumping, but other folks have been dumping down basically right up and into the wetland on that side. So they'd like the ability to remove that material from the buffer zone and actually a little bit into the pond, take that out, and also put in a conservation marker at the spot where there's the most frequent amount of dumping, just to let folks know that this is a sensitive area and don't pull off the side and dump your yard clippings and things there. Closer to the residence itself, they'd like, if for folks who have been out to the property, there's a retaining wall here, and then it drops down 4 to 5 feet to the lawn area, and there's no railing or kind of no safety measure along that area of the retaining wall. So they'd like to put in a railing or a fencing along the top of that wall, basically for safety purposes, so nobody falls off and potentially gets injured. Under the decking itself, their structural engineer suggested that they put 2 additional sonotubes and posts in for support under the deck. Right now, it's basically gravel or dirt, so there'd be no removal of vegetation at all associated with that. Similarly, under the porch area, there's basically a kind of a crawl space under the porch. They'd like to install sonotubes and supports under there as well. The work would likely be done by hand. I don't think they could get a piece of equipment in there to dig the sonotubes out, so that would all be done by hand as well. And then the material would be taken off site. They have an existing heating cooling unit, which is located right in this area. They'd like to add a second unit in. Again, that area is disturbed. It's not really vegetated right now. So basically just abut that right against the existing unit. And I promise I'm getting there. And then the last thing is there's an existing paved walkway from the driveway around the edge of the house back to the decking area. They'd actually like to remove that paved area and just replace it with flagstones. So basically taking out some impervious area right now. And then the only other thing was to replace a small tarmac on the west side with some additional flagstones as well. So overall, I mean, the majority of the work within and surrounding the residence is within previously disturbed areas. No vegetation would need to be removed. They'd actually be decreasing the amount of impervious area within the property. And then they would just like the ability to go in and do some handwork, closer to the wetland area. So with that, I'll take a breath, ask Ann and Peter if I covered everything, and open it up to questions.
Okay.
No, you got
I
everything.
think you got it all, John. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Eric, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, I'll be brief because John covered it pretty well. I went out there on the site on May 10th with Commissioner Karen, walked the property with the homeowners who described the proposed work, pretty much exactly in line with what John said. I could speak to the retaining wall that there was a pretty significant drop off from that, so I understand the desire to have some sort of safety rail put in. We had briefly discussed the impact of fence on wildlife, and they were telling us that they planned on putting this purely in as a support fence. There would be large gaps and there would be no concerns with wildlife. And I mean, there's also a retaining wall there in the first place, so I'm not sure how much would pass through there. On the porches where the sonotubes are going, it's all previously disturbed area. The heating and cooling additional unit that's going in there. Mr. Kundal noted that the current heating cooling unit has just a metal plate on top of some gravel, so it's not going in on a concrete slab or anything like that. And that the second one would also follow the layout of the first one. And what else? Yeah, I think that's about it. I think as John also mentioned, they were interested in putting in some do not disturb signs voluntarily along the street side near the pond because of some dumping in there, which Commissioner Karen and I saw while we were out there. So that's it for me on this.
Do we have any commissioner comments? None?
Pretty straightforward.
Yep, it is. And I would like to add that the time we spent with the homeowners, they seem to be very dedicated and knowledgeable conservationists. So the things that they're doing within the 25 are will be improvements. And then the other structural in the fence and the sonotube seem to be really essential improvements. So there's safety issues for sure there. So with that, no one, any public comment? No. Seeing none, I will like to make a motion to approve this with a +5 for the bylaw and a -3 with special conditions. And I'd like to ask for a second.
Second, Craig Hannafin.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Bert O'Donnell.
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Joe Ring.
Joe Ring, yes.
Craig Hannafin.
Craig Hannafin, yes.
Rick Carberry.
Rick Carberry, yes.
And Susan Karen is a yes. So we're all set.
Commissioner Karen, do you want me to just read the special conditions so we have them
Oh,
on
I'm
record?
sorry. Okay, yes.
No worries. It's just the standard ones. We have ensured best management practices are followed before commencing the work. Obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits, and see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permit work beyond the approved working activities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Thank you very much. No worries.
We did tell you it would be early.
Pursuant to the comment earlier, I am Vic Stenbeck's daughter. So yes, Stenbeck and Taylor was my dad. So yeah,
Back in the area.
so moved back finally to put my feet up and enjoy the location. So
Well, you're in a beautiful spot. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Eric,
it.
who is the second on this one?
The second was Joe. Is that correct?
No, I think it was Craig on that one.
Was it
I
Craig?
had-
Craig also, yeah. It was Craig.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, and last but certainly not least, we have Carberry, 1190 Ferry Street. I will read the legal notice. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, May 18th via Zoom for Patrick and Stephanie Carberry, 1190 Ferry Street, to determine whether the area depicted is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and whether the work driveway replacement is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and municipal wetlands ordinances or bylaws of the town of Marshfield. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Ring.
Thank you. I would like to make one comment before I start. I would like to confirm that after 1 year, Mr. Carberry is not a 1x2 square on my TV monitor or my computer monitor. He is actually a real person. I will know from that, as you could guess, I have not met him in person until last weekend, after working in this for a year.
Mr. Carberry needs to recuse himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that was the next point to go.
Rick, use out.
I had the pleasure of going to this site with Eric. Eric, would you care to do a summary? Or do you want me to?
Sure, I can do a summary. Or Rick, do you want to present your own project as the applicant here? Or you want me to roll with this?
Do I have to recuse?
You have to recuse. Yeah.
You have to recuse,
Okay.
but you could represent yourself.
Okay, no, I'll present the project. It's pretty straightforward. This is a driveway, asphalt driveway that we need to redo. It's many years old. It's cracking, it's settling, it's ponding, and we're going to remove the asphalt. We need to regrade so the driveway drains. And even though I would love to put in pervious pavers there, with the velocity of the coastal floodwaters we got there, I would fear that it would knock some of the pavers out. I think it would look a lot better too, but I think we're just going to go back and put the asphalt back on after we grade. It's an AE10 riverfront zone over there, and I think there's an exemption 310 CMR 10.022 2B 2Q that allows us to do this work. And it's about a little more than 1,000 square feet.
Thank you. I also believe it is a very straightforward project that is covered by the exemption. And I don't see a reason why we shouldn't go ahead and approve this, but I would like to ask if there's any commissioner questions or discussion. Hearing none, I would like to ask if there's any public comment. Hearing none for public comment, I would like to make a motion to issue a positive determination number 5 for the bylaw, a negative number 5 for the state exemption of 310 CMR 10.02 2A1, 310 CMR 10.02 2B, and 310 CMR 10.58 6B, and a negative number 3 with special conditions. Eric, would you like to do the special conditions?
I would love to. So we have ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits, and see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work.
And I am sure the applicant is very much aware of those. And with that, I would like to ask if I have a second for such proposal.
Second.
Thank you, Susan, for the second. Susan, how would you vote?
Susan Karen, yes.
Bert?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Craig?
Craig Hannafin, yes.
And Joe will vote yes, and I believe that means that there is a 4-0-0 with 1 abstain.
It's a recuse, sorry, Joe.
Recuse, that is correct. Yes, thank you.
Sorry, it's a little different, but he's out. But you
Yeah,
need him.
want to get the detail right. So that motion does carry, though.
It does, it's unanimous. And you have a quorum of the commission.
And
Thank you,
need
folks.
Mr. Carberry to return to the meeting, and we will buzz through these de minimis. We have 20 Massasoit Avenue, a shed in an AO flood zone. Bill, can you speak to that?
Yeah, Eric's got these.
Eric, thank you.
Yep, so this is it's just an AO flood zone that this house is located at. The shed would have a 10 by 12 concrete pad. And it doesn't seem like this is any issues with the performance standards and could be considered a de minimis activity by the commission.
And I want to couple these first two, and we'll take one vote unless anyone has an objection to the de minimis. The second being 102 Nevada Street, which is a gas line installation.
Yeah, so just a gas line installation on the street side of the property, previously disturbed land, slightly overlapping with the 100. Also, there were no special conditions on the first one, and there's no special conditions on this one either.
So I would make a motion, unless there is any objection, that both of these are considered de minimis. Can I have a second?
Joe Ring, second.
Thank you, Joe. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Rick?
Rick Carber, yes.
Bert?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
And Craig Hannafin, yes.
Okay, who was the second on those?
Joe.
Gotcha.
Okay, now we have SE 42 2782 amended 1203 Ferry Street. Consideration of whether changes to existing OOCs are de minimis or require a new amended OOC. And are you taking this, Bill?
Yeah, I got this.
Bill, I need to recuse. I'm in a butter.
Okay, very good. PC recuses. So we got 4. All right, is anybody here for this other than Eric and I?
Bill, I'm here.
Terry's here, okay. Normally, we try to make this quick, Terry. It's just, is it amended? Order conditions, he's already got one. I'm gonna fast track it. So the original orders of condition, a lot of build out, commission required swales and plantings. They get that. Then they had it amended because he did some work and he made the house slightly larger in the back, is encroaching in the direction of the salt marsh ever so little. And he had a little bit different configuration with the driveway. The commission approved and amended. He's talked to me about some other stuff. He stopped doing that. This time he put in these planters, and I got some complaints about this because there's a lot going on. So there's small planters in the front, there's walkways, there's a driveway, and I went and met with Craig because I know him, and I know him from the work, that's what I mean. And I went with Eric and we discussed it, and I said, you probably need to come up with some mitigation to keep this de minimis. And he showed me the driveway. The driveway was definitely not de minimis. The party completed. He said he would try it. So a couple weeks go by, I called him, and lo and behold, Terry's plan arrived shortly thereafter, and he's before in front of you to see if it's a de minimis or requires a new amended OOC. Terry?
It basically, you're gaining about 268 square feet of pervious area, because what Mr. Ricciarelli is asked to do is he's laying down some granite walkway stones across the front of the property. He does have a planter that we've captured as impervious area. Part of the retaining wall to the left of the front door was already on the approved plan. If you have the plan in front of you, or if you've seen it, the areas that are changing are shaded in blue. And what he's proposing to do is turn a good amount of that driveway from the paver apron up to the point where it starts to make a pivot into either seashell or stone dust. So you're going to have considerably less impervious area than you did previously. None of the runoff patterns have been altered. The area around the existing driveway, by the way, has a clean stone bed that provides not only recharge, but directs the runoff out through the retaining wall. So Craig had come to me and asked me to basically memorialize the existing coverages and compare them to what was approved on the previous plan. And that's the plan that you have.
Thank you. Any comments from commissioners? Any comments from the public? Unless a commissioner objects, I would say this is a de minimis. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that this is a de minimis activity. Could I have a second?
Second, Bert O'Donnell.
Thank you, Bert. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Rick?
I'm recused.
Oh, I'm sorry. Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
And Craig Hannafin, yes.
Thank
Bert
you.
O'Donnell, yes.
Bert O'Donnell?
Oh, there's Bert.
I thought you already voted, Bert.
I
4-0.
second.
No, he seconded.
He's not going to go to 5-0 because we voted for it twice. All right, got it.
Okay.
Thank you all.
So very good, Terry. Nice job. So Rick, are you coming back?
I'm back.
Okay. SE 422704 amended, 50 Ocean Street, flagpole and fence reconstruction. De minimis or
Excuse me.
bless you. Bill?
Sorry, that was so loud.
Right. Okay, so I think Mr. Marathis is here. 50 Ocean, we have some history on. It had a permit back in the day for elevating a house. He's put it up on concrete piers and with footings. He had a shed also that he came back on an amended order of conditions and a elevator. We had special conditions on that. I got a town official complaint about a flagpole being brought in. I got to talking to Mr. Marathis, and then it turned out that he wants to restore a fence that he said was there before. He showed me an elevation cert with black and white. It was pretty blurry. I saw an object, but it really didn't look a fence. I'm going to take his word for it. He basically wants to restore the fence that he had before, and he wants permission to have the the flagpole kept. So he wants to know if this is de minimis, so we're going to trigger an amended OOC.
Okay, is there someone here to address this?
Sure, James Marathis, property owner of 50 Ocean Street. What Bill said is correct. The fence did exist prior to me raising the house. We had to remove the fence in order to bring the equipment in to excavate and to raise the house. So I was under the impression that this was all part of the original filing that we filed to raise the house. Where they took the fence down, we were going to put the fence back up again. So we're at the end of the project now, and I'd like to put the fence back up. We have 3 dogs, and we have coyotes up here, and it's very uncomfortable bringing the pets out in the morning.
Okay. Any commissioner comments? Any commissioners' objection to this being de minimis? In that case, any public comment? In that case, I make a motion to declare this de minimis. Could I have a second?
Second, Rick Carberry.
Thank you, Rick. Joe Ring?
Joe Ring, yes.
Sue Karen?
Susan Karen, yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
And Craig Hannafin, yes.
Okay. So
Rick Carberry.
Rick Carberry, yes.
Got it. All right, Craig, 2 things. One, we have a couple of continuations that need to be voted in. I didn't hear those earlier. Those would be on,
Yes, you're right.
And then we also have the extension at the end, page 4 of your notes. And then the last page, we have to do the extension. And I think that covers everything. But Eric,
let's do the continuations.
Yeah.
We have South River Street, SE 422905. A continuation to 6/1 was requested per the applicant's representative. I move that we vote to continue to the 6/1 public meeting. Do I have a second?
Joe Ring,
Thank you, Joe. Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Mr. Carberry,
Rick Carber, yes.
Susan Karen,
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe Ring,
Joe Ring, yes.
and Craig Hannafin, yes. And then we have Marginal Road, 62, SE 42, 2916. A continuation to 6-1 was approved during the 4-6 meeting. So vote to continue to 6-1. I make a motion. Do I have a second?
Joe, second.
Thank you, Joe. Vice Chair O'Donnell,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Susan Karen,
Susan Karen, yes.
Rick,
Rick Carber, yes.
and I'm a yes.
Okay, 500, page 23, 25.
And then we have requests for.
You have an extension also, Craig?
Yep. Extension, 2719 Brewer Green Harbor Marina, 239 Dyke Road. And Bill,
Yeah, this is straightforward. They have some ongoing things with the ASTs, piping wise, et cetera. They need more time. And one thing they didn't cover, they asked for a year, but they got mitigation issues and I need to work with them. So I'd suggest giving them 3 so we don't have them coming back in a year and be like expired. I just give them the 3.
do any commissioners object to that?
No.
Then I move that we extend these orders of conditions for 3 years to June 1st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second,
Susan.
Vice Chair O'Donnell,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Commissioner Ring,
Joe Ring, yes.
Commissioner Karen,
Susan Karen, yes.
Commissioner Carberry,
Rick Carber, yes.
and Craig Hannafin, yes.
Okay. We're just doing a quick police for this because we moved all over the place. Eric's been looking at stuff. Give us a couple seconds. I think you're done. I think we got everything, Craig.
Okay, I make a motion that we close the Conservation Commission hearing of Tuesday, May 18th. Do I have a second?
Joe Ring, second.
Susan Karen,
Susan Karen, yes.
Rick Carberry,
Rick Carber, yes.
Joe Ring,
Joe Ring, yes.
Bert O'Donnell,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Craig Hannafin, yes. Sorry, guys, that went way long. I will do my best to do better going forward.
I just cut the slack. That was a tough project on Brewster. It ate up a half hour. You would have been.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
No, it's, it is what it is, but I'll work on speeding things up going forward.
Fair enough.
I think you did a great job. So
Yeah, well done. Thank you all.
Well, good night, everyone.
Good night.
That's the end of it.